No, later.
Wednesday.
Is it Wednesday? Is that the first game?
Yeah. They just wrapped that series up.
I wasn't sure if it was today or
Which is Memphis is a good team.
man, they pushed them. That was a tough series. Physical.
Yeah, and losing Gary Payton is gonna be hard.
Yeah.
Especially.
Oh, excuse me one second.
Yeah.
But it's just not as visible.
It's actually Friday.
That's my sign in the front. Because they're doing it. You like that?
Yeah.
I think so. I did all kinds of stuff when I was in 8th grade and high school. March of Dimes. They had all kinds of like fundraisers. Remember Hands Across America? We did that. My friends didn't ever want to do it with me. They were boring.
My youngest daughter, she did an internship at the police department with Bernice. While she's young.
Wow, yeah. And Bernice is dynamic. She really is. Thank you.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It is 6 p.m. I'd like to start by announcing that anyone wishing to speak at tonight's meeting, whether an item on or off the agenda, please do fill out a yellow card and hand it to the city clerk so that we can account for and accommodate everybody who wishes to speak on any particular item. All right, I'd like to open this meeting, call it to order, and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If we could all stand, and we'll be led by Councilmember Marks.
Salute, pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and remain standing. I think we have an invocation. Grant Bennett? Yes.
Good evening. Before we ask for help tonight, the weight and responsibility of governing, would you just have a moment of silence with me? What a painful weekend this was for our nation, and we're seeing the grieving families. So, for just a moment. I know to whom I'm praying, and you're welcome to join me or lift up your request in line with your faith. And you're also welcome to continue to have a moment of stillness and silence before the business begins. Heavenly Father, how we need wisdom beyond our understanding. Because so many of us have learned that you are good, we come to you. Because we take this seriously, we still ask for guidance and direction, and I ask that you would bring it. Because we grieve with our nation, we want to see our neighborhoods and fellow Gilroyans thrive. We ask for your help and for blessings for this community. Tonight, bring wisdom. Help the best decisions be made for all. I pray that you bring a renewed sense of desire in our community for us to be great neighbors and renewed commitments for us to work together to build relational bridges, even across political lines. Bring your peace to the hearts and minds of our mayor and our city councils. They have been entrusted with the responsibility of leading and serving this growing community. Bring solutions and not only more problems. Bring hope and not only more frustration. And because you're good and I've learned just how much you care, I ask this in the name above all names. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. City Clerk's report on posting the agenda.
Yes, Madam Mayor. The agenda was posted on Thursday, May 12th at 11:10 a.m.
All right, and roll call.
Councilmember Almerderis,
Here.
Councilmember Bracco, Councilmember Hilton,
Here.
Councilmember Leroy Munoz,
Present.
Councilmember Marks,
Here.
Councilmember Tovar,
Here.
and Mayor Blankley.
Here. All right, under orders of the day, we have none. Under employee introductions, we have none. Ceremonial items, we have none. So we're moving on to presentations to council, item 3.1, which is the Youth Commission's annual presentation. And Reed Hada is going to, give the report.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Reet Pada, and I'm currently a senior at GECA. I'm also the chair of the Youth Commission this year, and with me I have Vice Chair Meher Kamra and our commissioners Ezekiel Lopez, Jacob Baker, Alexis Miller, Lavender Huang, and Aiden Francis. So the Youth Commission meets every month from October to May on the second Monday at 6 p.m. at the Senior Center. Today we wanted to give you an overview of what the Commission has accomplished in the past year, especially coming out of the virtual format from the year before. So one of our first highlights of the year was the Holiday Posada event, which was hosted at San Isidro Park in December of 2021. At this event, commissioners were able to serve over 600 families. The Commission hosted an arts and crafts table where children could write letters to Santa. We had coloring sheets as well as photo frame decorations. There were also a variety of other performances and activities for the families there. And the Commission also helped set up for the event and set up and distributed some goodie bags for children and their families. Our next highlight of this year was the Yak Social event, which was hosted in Cupertino on Saturday, November 20th in 2021. The Commission was able to network with 15 other youth commissions from the Santa Clara and San Mateo counties. This was a great networking event. We were able to learn how other commissions functioned, whether or not they were Brown acted, how the events that they had accomplished. There was a swap meet for ideas and events that they had hosted in a virtual format, as well as what they had accomplished in the years before. And we were also helping to plan for the Yak Attack event, which was hosted in April of 2022. So our next highlight was actually in May. It was very recent at the Kids Discovery Art or Day of the Child event, which was also hosted at San Isidro Park. Here, the commissioners were also leading an arts and crafts table where we incorporated elements of the Pampered Princess Party, which was an event that the Gilroy Youth Commission has hosted in years prior. So children could decorate the bags that they were holding their crafts in. We had crowns and wands. We had coloring sheets, and there was also a face painting station that was separate from the arts and crafts table. Commissioners also facilitated other games like Cornhole and Giant Connect 4 and Jenga. At this event, we served over 400 families, and it was a great way to get engaged one-to-one with the youth. Moving forward, the Commission will be going on hiatus from June to September. Like I said, this year was definitely a learning curve for us all. We were coming out of a virtual format, just beginning to do events in person again. And the Commission is really grateful that we were able to participate in these events in person. The Commission will resume meeting on Monday, October 10th of 2022, when the new commissioners are elected. Thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Yeah, go ahead. Are there any questions from council? All right, well, just our deepest gratitude and thank you for all that you do for Gilroy. Okay, item 3.2 is presentation from Santa Clara County Public Health, Dawn Tran.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Don Tran, and I'm here on behalf of the Santa Clara County Public Health Department to provide a short presentation regarding a resident survey on secondhand smoke. The county's tobacco program, we routinely work with various cities across the county on surveys and other community engagement efforts like this one. So this survey was conducted on behalf of the county by EMC Research. We reached out to 300 residents within the city of Gilroy. A survey was conducted in multiple languages in November and December of 2021. Surveys were offered via live telephone and also via online links. Just to give a quick breakdown of the respondents within the survey, we had a very reflective mix of, in terms of gender, age, ethnicities, and various household income levels. In terms of home ownership levels, 60% of survey respondents identify themselves as homeowners, and 26% identify themselves as renters. It's not pictured in this particular graphic, but out of the 300 respondents, 4 out of 5 identify themselves as non-smokers. In terms of the issue of secondhand smoke and tobacco use and vaping, on a scale of 1 to 7, with 7 being most important, those two issues scored 3.84 and 4.0, which puts them right in the middle, as you can say. Respondents on the survey identified other particular issues that city councils and other governments typically face, which include homelessness, affordable housing, jobs and the economy, COVID-19, and traffic. These particular issues ranked between 5 and 6 in comparison to the 4 that secondhand smoke and tobacco use and vaping ranked. Respondents were asked about their general attitudes towards tobacco usage. The big takeaway from this particular slide is that 92% of the respondents felt that flavored tobacco products are harmful to children and the youth. 74% of respondents felt that the government should do or take measures possible to reduce people's exposure to secondhand smoke. However, I'll also note that only about 1 in 2 respondents noted that they have personally been negatively impacted by smoking and tobacco use. In terms of general smoking and vaping restrictions, secondhand smoke includes drifting smoke from cigarettes, marijuana, and aerosols from vaping products and electronic cigarettes. Roughly 4 out of 5 residents are in support of these particular restrictions, and they were well aware of the various dangers and potential health risks from secondhand smoke exposure. In regards to demographics, overall, lower income residents and those without 4-year degrees considered secondhand smoke to be a more important issue compared to other demographics identified within this particular survey. You can also note the difference in perception of this issue among smokers and non-smokers. So within this particular survey, 36% of respondents report that they are being exposed to secondhand smoke at least once per week. You see the chart on the right side, that 36% is roughly on average with many of the other demographic categories in that. However, I wanted to call out the two highest disparities on there, which is the multi-unit residences. They reported a 62% exposure once a week, and those in the lower income bracket at 51%. So those are the two outliers in the particular group. So where are people generally being exposed to secondhand smoke? About 1 in 3 report exposure in outdoor dining areas and various public places such as sidewalks, bus stops, and public streets. So last year, the City Council passed the smoke-free parks policy in 2021. The survey sought to examine the attitudes around other potential areas. And in general, the survey respondents responded favorably for other smoking restrictions in other public areas. As you can see, they range from support from 77 to 86% in various areas, including outdoor dining, doorways and exits, service areas, and outdoor public events. Taking it one step further, we also gauge their attitudes around smoking restrictions within multi-unit housing settings, such as apartments, condos, and townhomes. Support is a little bit lower compared to the previous slide, but overall, many respondents were largely in favor of restricting smoking away from windows and doors and only allowing smoking in designated areas. About 2 out of 3 respondents support smoking restrictions within the unit itself. This particular slide here shows the difference in opinions between those who live in multi-unit housing and those who live in single-family residences. As you can see, overall, out of the survey respondents, both scored very similarly, and it shows that both groups, in general, support smoke-free housing policies. Promise y'all I keep it short tonight, so thank you for your time. You can answer any questions that you may have, and the county's always looking forward to offering any TA or providing any assistance as necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that presentation. Okay. Okay. Sorry, a need for thinker. Okay. Well, there might be some questions. I don't know, Don. Hang on. Okay. Does anyone up at the council dais have questions? Wait. Oh, we do have one. Did you raise your hand too?
Depends on what you ask.
Okay. Councilmember Hilton, your question?
Thank you, Mayor Blankley. So for the past 10 years, Gilroy's been a part of the South County United for Health leadership team. And so I appreciate all the education that you provided me while sitting on that committee. I've done my best to try to bring those, those updates back here and best practices. Can you briefly talk about the technical support that city staff could provide, or that you can provide city staff if we were to move ahead with any type of adoption or policies?
Yeah, in the past and with many other cities, we provide a wide variety of technical assistance. We help review draft ordinances, provide best practices in terms of crafting these ordinances together. We also assist staff with community outreach efforts, providing presentation materials. Within other cities as well, we've helped them craft surveys like this one. Just if we want to gauge some of these questions further or maybe reach a specific demographic group, we can help you with that. And other small things too. There's things such as signage that's necessary, which like we did with the Parks Ordinance, we can definitely help out with that. So toolbox is full and we can help out any way we can.
And then just to follow up on that, so these policies would include like vaping, marijuana, any kind of secondhand smoke. It's not just related to cigarettes, let's say.
Correct. In this particular survey, secondhand smoke was defined as cigarette smoke, marijuana smoke, and aerosols from electronic cigarette products and vape pens.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes. Your stuff doesn't show. Do we know, like, in the city of Gilroy, how many rentals allow smoking?
I didn't have that data offhand. We set the survey sample size at 300, but that's something we can follow up with staff.
It seems like that would be a question you would ask. Renters, how many of them live in the smoky environment?
Oh, correct. Yeah, in the past, other cities we have worked with, that was almost the next step we would take in terms of crafting a survey would be specifically for those who are renting and finding out some of those specific data points as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I sat on the South County United for Health too, in fact, longer than Councilmember Hilton did, but he just took over when he got elected. So I could certainly appreciate all that goes on in that group and very much credit everything that the group does. So to whatever extent you meant to connect that, thank you. All right, we done?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to 3.3. This is the time on the agenda for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. So again, I'll ask that yellow card please be completed by anybody wishing to speak, and that when your name is called, the city clerk will call, I don't know how many people want to speak here, but if there are multiple people, he will call up to 3 names, and if you could please come up to the front row when your name is called so that you're ready to come up to the podium when it's time. Okay?
At this time, Madam Mayor, I have 7 speaker cards. The first speaker will be Kelly Ramirez, followed by Carol Baker, and after that will be Dr. Alan Goldsobel.
Okay, so will all those people please, Kelly, you can come up because you're just called, but the other 2 names, if you would please come sit in the front row. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you.
You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Is it not on? Am I not speaking loud enough?
No, I think it's on.
Okay. Usually I don't need one. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Kelly Ramirez. This evening I am here to address Council Member Armendariz. Based on the events that took place at your residence on the night of October 31st, 2021, and based on your involvement in the preparation of those events, based on the independent investigation by Hanson Bridget LLP, and on behalf of the concerned citizens of Gilroy, I am presenting you with a copy of the Notice of Intent to recall you from office.
No, wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so Ty, the next person. Yes.
Yes, Madam Mayor, that will be Carol Baker, followed by Dr. Alan Goldsobel, followed by Kirian Carr.
Okay.
Thank you. I am Carol Baker. I'm the co-chair, along with Vanessa Marvin, of the Tobacco Free Coalition of Santa Clara County, and we want to thank you for considering doing something about smoky areas. I'd just like to read just a little bit of the letter that we sent you. There are many strong policy options that would protect residents of Gilroy from secondhand smoke. Many of these have passed in other cities across Santa Clara County already. These include outdoor dining areas, entryways, service areas, public events, multi-unit housing. It brings us hope to hear that Gilroy is considering how to join other Santa Clara County jurisdictions in expanding secondhand smoke protections. Our coalition, which is made up of American Heart Association, American Lung Association, and many, many other health organizations, we encourage you to consider these policies at your meetings on May 16th, tonight, to protect the health of the Gilroy residents. We look forward to working with you and to support your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Dr. Alan Goldsobel, followed by Kirian Carr, followed by Audrey Flage.
Hello to Mayor Blanksley and members of the council. My name is Dr. Alan Goldsobel. I'm an allergy and asthma physician here in Gilroy, and I'm here to urge the council to improve the ordinance that protects those who live and work and go to school here in Gilroy from secondhand smoke exposure. As a physician, I understand the great dangers of secondhand smoke, especially for those with lung disease, but as well as the very young who will not be able to be here tonight to speak for themselves. We hope that the council will strengthen the rules for all areas that are currently being considered, including entryways, service areas, public events, multi-unit housing, and outdoor dining. I'm aware that the Santa Clara County Public Health Department has shared critical information about the health hazards associated with secondhand smoke, but I thought that I would speak from a physician's perspective about secondhand smoke. Many studies have been done to show, using biomarkers of cigarette smoke inhalation into the body, clearly that secondhand smoke exposed non-smokers absorb, metabolize, and excrete tobacco smoke components, including nicotine and tobacco-specific carcinogens. That is unquestionable. These people did not ask for this to be put into their body, but by being next to somebody or in proximity to somebody who's smoking, those chemicals are introduced into their body. We have understood how dangerous secondhand smoke is since the 1986 Surgeon General's report, and literally thousands of more studies have been done, increasing the details of the extremely toxic effects. Although I serve all ages of patients with respiratory diseases, it's children in particular who need your protection the most. The adverse health effects that are seen in children exposed to secondhand smoke include prematurity, perinatal mortality, growth retardation, sudden infant death syndrome, recurrent pneumonia, asthma, and other lower respiratory tract illnesses, kidney impairment, and middle ear disease. I cannot tell you how many young children I have seen over the years, hundreds and hundreds of Gilroy children who have had pneumonia, bronchiolitis, severe asthma, all from cigarette smoke exposure. Reducing cigarette smoke exposure in the home is most critical because this is where children get most likely,
I'm sorry,
most of their
you're
exposure.
out of time. I'm sorry, we have
Thank
to give
you.
the same amount of time to
I'll
everyone.
be happy to provide any
It's
documentation.
okay, I'm one of those kids, okay, that you just described, 20 years. All right, next speaker.
Karen Carr, followed by Audrey Fledge, followed by Jimmy Apfel.
Good evening, Mayor Blankley and council members. My name is Karen Dupour, and I'm here representing Breathe California, your local lung health leader since 1911. I'm here to express full support for an ordinance to provide protection from secondhand smoke in all outdoor areas in Gilroy, especially outdoor dining areas. As currently only 50% is smoke-free. One of my students recently shared an experience. She had to leave a restaurant because when she was celebrating her grandma's 80th birthday because there was smoke waiting into their area, and her baby had asthma and she was unable to breathe. The restaurant staff were only able to tell her that they were abiding by the law because they were keeping 50% of their outdoor dining area smoke-free. Secondhand smoke dangers have been well documented over 35 years by our U.S. Surgeon Generals, and it's time to close the loophole in the ordinance and make outdoor dining areas 100% smoke-free. Gilroy is currently the only city in Santa Clara County without a 100% smoke-free law. Recently, Breathe California, we collected about 100 petition signatures in support of this. Having a 100% smoke-free law would not only help people who frequently dine in restaurants, but also the staff from the harmful effects of smoke, secondhand smoke, and it would increase their productivity and their morale. And not only that, another benefit is that it would decrease tobacco litter, and that would reduce risk of fires. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Audrey Fledge, followed by Jimmy Apfel, followed by Gabriela Mendoza.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Audrey Fliga, and I'm a junior at Christopher High, and I'm up here today to talk about my personal experiences with secondhand smoke. Typically, when I walk into
Can you pull the microphone down?
Like
Can't
this?
hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to hear.
Sorry about that. Typically, when you walk into a high school bathroom or a public restroom in general, one of the first things you can smell is that of smoke from a vaping device. And while it may come off as fruity, minty, or typically smells very pleasurable, that doesn't mean that it is any less toxic than that of cigarette smoke. Especially in bathrooms and other enclosed spaces, there is very rarely a chance for the smoke to get aired out, as well as it's just very enclosed in general. And those who are simply trying to use the restroom, freshen up, or just go to the bathroom for any particular reason are or have to ingest these kinds of toxins without wanting to or having anything else that they can do about it. And I'm not up here to bash other people for their personal decisions or their bad habits, even though it is unfortunate that youth are participating in these kinds of activities, but to emphasize the fact that when one does smoke, it rarely ever simply just affects them and also affects the people around them. And I just want to come up here and let you know what's going on in the high schools, or at least Christopher, but I assume Gilroy as well. And maybe take it into consideration my experience as well as anyone else who goes into public restrooms, as I'm sure you have before, and to think about it when implementing different policies for secondhand smoke. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Jimmy Apfel, followed by Gabriela Mendoza.
Good evening, City Council and residents of Gilroy. My name is Jimmy Apfel, and I serve as a Community Relations Coordinator for Bloom Energy, a clean, resilient power company located in Silicon Valley with more than 800 local employees and hiring for 300 additional advanced manufacturing careers here in the Bay. Last year, Bloom Energy helped host the inaugural Stars and Strides 10K and 5K community run, in which we raised over $250,000 to benefit the Valley Medical Center Foundation. It was a great success and a great way to honor and support our frontline healthcare workers and the patients they serve as they've protected our communities throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. This year, we want to build on our success, and so we are hosting the second annual Stars and Strides Community Run, in which we hope to raise $350,000 to benefit the Valley Medical Center Foundation as they provide, as they support 3 county hospitals and 14 healthcare clinics, which collectively provide about 1 million of our neighbors with healthcare services, 85% of whom are low-income members of our community. We would like to have 2,500 participants for our 10K run or 5K walk, and 400 caring volunteers to help make sure that all of our participants have a great time. Tonight, I have a couple requests. First, for everyone here, please register for yourself and your family. It's on June 2nd in Discovery Meadow in San Jose. You can register online at starsandstridesrun.com. For our elected leaders, please sign up under the California Water Service Elected Official and Executive 5K Challenge. We would also love if you could reach out to your own community members and databases to invite people to show up on June 2nd. It's going to be a fantastic event. And we would love to work with you in providing outreach. Over the past 2 years, we've really had an opportunity to see how much organizations like the Valley Medical Center Foundation do for all of us, and this is a great opportunity to honor and serve them as they've served us. So please join us on July 2nd, and please spread the word throughout your communities. Thank you so much.
June 2nd, right? You
just
said
July 2nd.
Oh, July 2nd.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Did I say June 2nd?
You
July
said June
2nd.
earlier.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was just
very good.
checking my
Thank you.
calendar, too.
All right, next speaker.
Gabriela Mendoza.
Hello, good evening. My name is Gabriela Mendoza, and I would like to speak about City Council member Rebecca Armendariz. Rebecca has helped me throughout my entire life. She has been my mentor since I was in high school. I was a high-risk youth, influenced by gangs and drugs. Teen mom, had a miscarriage. Becca saved my life alongside with a group of people from back then, Maxa. She was the only hope that I had at the time. She was my guidance. She was the one that rooted me and empowered me and that gave me that high self-esteem that my own mother could not give me. Becca, till this day, motivates me, motivates so many young women here in Gilas. I call it Gilas because that's what it is to me. Gilroy is Gilas to me. It's more than just a city, and that is because of Becca. I see Becca till this day in her van, driving around helping the homeless, helping the Latino community, which I don't see a lot of people in this city doing. On the weekends, on Christmas, late at night, making gifts for the homeless. She is motivating, she's inspiring. As a Latina woman, I thank you, Becca. I thank you for saving my life when nobody, and like listening to me when nobody else listened and cared about me. Gilroy needs more people like you, Becca, here, sitting with all of you, that will speak up for those that cannot speak up, like the Latino community, the homeless. I see her out there with her bun, and she's out there helping the homeless, giving them food on Sundays, asking youth, hey, how can youth get involved in the community? That is Becca. That's how I know Becca. I hear all these things about her, Rebecca Armendariz, and you want her out of this council. That is a mistake if you guys decide that. So many voices will not be heard if you get her out. Women like me, young women then, like the ones that you see here, they're going to lose themselves. They're not going to have anyone to speak on behalf of them. So I'm just here tonight to remind you, Rebecca, that you forever, ever hold a dear place in my heart. I love you. And to remind all of you to open up your minds just a little in your hearts. I get it. Things happen. We're not perfect. No one is. But we need people like Becca. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any others?
No other speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Reports of council members. Councilmember Bracco.
Yes, I had the fortunate opportunity yesterday to attend and participate in the first annual car show and salsa tasting. And it was a really great event, good family event. And I wanted to thank Councilmember Tovar, and let's see if I can get most of them. Maria, Karina, Mercedes, Nick the Greek, and I'm sure Councilman Tovar can correct me. I'm sure I forgot most of them, but it was a really good event, especially since the group dealt with way more people than they ever thought would show up. And it was a truly nice event. I'd say about 75 cars there, and everybody had a good time. And so for the community, I want to thank those that put it on, and good luck in the future with it. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Armendariz.
No report.
Councilmember Marks.
No report, but I have to say, yes, that was a very nice event yesterday, and it was nice to see the community coming out and supporting it. So looking forward to the second one.
Councilmember Hilton.
Thank you, Mayor Blankley. The Board of Directors authorized Silicon Valley Clean Energy to purchase a small slice of PG&E's renewable energy portfolio in case delays in board authorized contracts result in a need for additional renewable energy. SVCE communities are making a coordinated effort to adopt REACH codes, amendments to the building code and energy code that requires or encourages electrification in new construction for buildings and EV charging infrastructure. With this upcoming code adoption cycle, all 13 SVCE member communities are actively engaging with actions to approve new REACH codes for the 2022 building and energy codes. This month, communities are working with SVCE to conduct public outreach, connect with technical consultation to help develop code language, and add REACH codes to upcoming council and board meeting agendas. REACH codes are impactful for fighting climate change as they help to set policy changes that allow for building electrification at scale to lower emissions, influence future state building codes, and direct local decarbonization policy. I had the opportunity to judge for SVCE's short film contest, where local students shared their stories and solutions to climate change for a chance at a $20,000 scholarship award. I'm happy to see the next generation solutions and support for a clean energy future. The winners will be announced shortly. And lastly, a special thank you to the leadership classes from Christopher High School for the invite for me to come and speak, but also listen with you all last week. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Councilmember Bracco and Marks, for those comments. A little bit about what was mentioned yesterday. I had the honor, along with the owners of Nick the Greek on First Street, to host as was mentioned, the first annual Gilroy salsa tasting competition and car show event. And as Councilmember Bracco mentioned, we had about 75 cars and probably about 500 to 600 people show up. The reason why we decided to do this, and we planned it, and we do have room to improve. We planned it probably about 2 months ago, so we really moved fast on it. The purpose was twofold. One was to expose all the businesses there on First Street that may get overlooked sometimes, and just so the community can know that we have many different restaurants and stores there. So I was glad that so many people supported those local businesses. But in addition, the money was all the money that was raised will go to our fire and police association in hopes that they could utilize those funds for whatever they feel they might need for their association. So again, I want to thank all the sponsors, volunteers. The mayor is one of our celebrity judges. Councilmember Bracco didn't mention he entered his car and took third place. Second place, even better. And thank you, Councilmember Marks, for going there and supporting us as well. And again, our hope is that we're going to do this every year. And again, the main reason behind it was just to get the community out there, support our local business, but also acknowledge our local heroes, our fire and police. So thank you all to the fire and police officers that were there, that showed up, and were socializing with the community. That was probably the number one thing that people let me know, that they appreciated meeting our firefighters and our police officers. So thank you. Second, tomorrow, our Downtown Gourmet Alley Ad Hoc Committee is meeting tomorrow. We have a lot to discuss, and we're hoping to come back with some recommendations to City Council. We have a lot more to discuss and ideas, but we're hoping that we get some progress going on that. So I look forward to that as well. Before I forget, sorry, I just want to go back to the event. I want to thank one of our local heroes. Cecilia Ponzini made a really large donation to both our fire and police department yesterday, so I want to thank her personally for caring enough about our fire and police officers to make that financial contribution. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Leroy Munoz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of quick items. The City Association of Santa Clara County met last Thursday. We had a very short meeting. As people know, the Cities Association is made up of representatives from all of the 15 cities in Santa Clara County. We approved our budget for fiscal year 2022-2023. But I think more importantly, we discussed a little bit about kind of what we want the organization to be going forward. Kind of thinking about what role we can play as a regional body. And so it's still very much a question that continues. So I'm always open to hearing from my colleagues as to if you have thoughts, if you have ideas, if you'd like to see the Cities Association work on certain projects or take certain directions, please do let me know. I'm happy to share that with our colleagues, but we're trying to figure out who we want to be as an organization kind of going forward. So always open to hearing that. The second item is something that I just wanted to just provide my own quick thoughts on with regard to the racially motivated shootings that we had over the weekend in Buffalo, as well as the shooting at the church in the Southland at the House of Worship there. As a community who's gone through something like this, we are unfortunately in a unique place where we know what it's like, and so it gives us a perspective, and I think maybe hits a little closer to home for some of us. It brought back a lot of memories that I had from about 3 years ago, thinking about our own Garlic Festival incident. So just wanted to offer my words of support and prayer for the victims, their families, anyone affected. I know they're only words, but I think it's so important to know that others are thinking about you and that they're with you in spirit as they go through this period of processing and mourning.
Thank you. Okay, as for a celebrity judge, I want to be clear that was for the salsa tasting, not for the cars, because I don't, as my husband will tell you, I'll just pick the prettiest color and that's it for the car. Sorry. Okay, my report is around a VTA Policy Advisory Committee meeting. That's about something significant to report there, I think, and that's that they're working on a policy for not only transit-oriented development, but transit-oriented communities, and that's going to be going to the board at the next board meeting, and it's going to include a more clear definition, or it's going to try to have a more clear definition of what constitutes viable transit that's pre-existing in order to call the surrounding housing oriented around transit. So That's really all I wanted to say on that. That's the only meeting that I've had since our last council meeting, which wasn't all that long ago. Okay, so moving on to item 5, future council initiated agenda items.
I have two, Madam Mayor.
You have 2? Okay. Councilmember Hilton.
Thank you. After listening to our public health presentation and reading public comment, I'm requesting to place the Gilroy City Code, Chapter 19B, Smoking Pollution Control, with a possible action to strengthen this code on a future agenda. For the past 10 years, Gilroy has been a part of the South County United for Health leadership team with a focus on addressing health challenges such as poor nutrition, smoking, diabetes, lack of exercise that are the highest in the county. We have made progress in correcting these through policy and programs, but we lack any policy that reduces secondhand smoke except for our recent smoke-free parks policy. We have the opportunity now to strengthen our Gilroy City Code, Chapter 19B, Smoking Pollution Control policy to help our residents. I am open to any friendly amendments from this council to my future agenda item, but I'm compelled not to just sit back and do nothing. And with that, I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions. Thank you.
Are there any comments from the council? Or we'll just vote.
I have one comment.
Okay.
I'm very much opposed to secondhand smoke, and so I was very pleased to hear the presentation. But then I'm very concerned about, I think, one portion of what you're proposing, Councilmember Hilton, because in the letter you wrote to Supervisor Mike Wasserman, you mentioned about having homes. Do you mean individual houses ban smoking inside of them?
No, this would not be for single-family homes.
So you're just talking then about condos and apartment buildings?
Well,
I think whatever we would talk about would be what we discuss at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, he's just asking to have that discussion.
Yeah, so to clarify that, there's basically 6 policies, and none of them include single-family homes.
Okay, well, again.
6 policies we can discuss?
6 policies that I'm proposing that we bring forward, and none of those include single-family homes.
Okay, well, putting it on the agenda doesn't necessarily define the policies that we're going to discuss. It just
She was
means
asking if I was supporting anything with single-family
Right,
homes.
and the answer is no.
Okay.
Correct,
Because
I
that
got
would
that.
make a difference whether I voted yes or no
I got
on
that.
having this on the agenda.
But if that's something that you want, like
No,
I said,
it isn't.
Okay.
No.
I want this to be a group thing here.
You know, we have no right to tell people in their individual houses what they're going to do.
Sounds good.
Councilmember Tovar, do you? Sorry?
Yeah, he was first.
Yeah, I didn't even know that you had a question. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just want to understand, so do we not have any smoking policies already in place?
Jimmy, we do. We already, Jimmy, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is already prohibited to smoke inside of any restaurants. It's prohibited to smoke inside of the library or city hall or any public facility. You can't smoke. You can't smoke in indoor public areas, outdoor, and you can't smoke in our parks. And now you can't smoke in our parking lots. Okay, but you can smoke outside. And you can at restaurants, other than 50%. I mean, my personal opinion is the restaurant owner decides that, but our policy, the law is that 50% of the outdoor space they may not smoke in. They cannot smoke in the indoor space. And then hotels, as we all know, hotels have some smoking rooms and some non-smoking rooms. And probably everybody knows what it feels like to go into what you thought was a non-smoking room and realize somebody was smoking in there.
Right. No, and I asked that because, again, I've never smoked, obviously. So, I mean, I just have some concerns because one of the comments that was made earlier about smoking in the restrooms in high schools, I thought that was prohibited.
That is already prohibited.
Yeah,
You
so
can't smoke in restrooms or indoors on the school campuses, or probably anywhere on the school campus.
So maybe the school district needs to hear about that. In regards to this, I've talked to local business owners about this because I want to get a better sense. And most of them felt that it would hinder and hurt their businesses. And I think for me, I'm a little concerned about that. Obviously, I don't smoke, I'm against it, but I'm also looking out for the betterment of local businesses. And I think one of the things that was mentioned is also banning it from public events. I mean, so I mean, there's some concerns I have regarding that. And if things like that are going to be included, I would have to vote against it because I'm not for that. So that's where I stand.
And I think in reality, we have to realize that even though we have smoke-free an ordinance for smoke-free parks, in reality, at the larger parks, there are a lot of people smoking in the parking lots and in the parks. So we have to also think about what happens when someone is smoking, you know.
Yeah,
I think we are.
I know. That's why I was, let me let
Right.
Councilmember Armendariz speak, and then I'm going to try to rein this in.
Thank you. I was also compelled by the presentation from Department of Public Health, especially given the data that they showed us on people who live in multi-unit residences and how they're exposed to the secondhand smoke without any choice of their own. So I'll be supporting us having a discussion about it.
Okay, Councilmember Bracco?
I would like to see staff bring back what can be done, because I'm tired of addressing this once a year. And
We actually just did this in November.
Nibble a little bit at a time. You know, just give it all to us and let us decide. You know, because I mean, I don't think anybody likes secondhand smoke. So you know.
Okay, so let me give this a try, because Councilmember Hilton is asking that we have this discussion. I'm going to ask that we vote to put it on the agenda as an open discussion item, not with specific things that he's suggesting, that those could be the things that you can bring up that night to discuss. Here, we're just deciding whether or not, so if anybody feels like there's any part of our smoking ordinance that you might like to look at, like the multi-housing one, then that would be a reason for the discussion. Okay, so with that, let's do a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And it looks like it's a unanimous up, so we can take it from there. And the timing will be as it fits into the work plan. Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we move on
I have one more, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
Okay.
right. You said two.
Thank you all for that last one. I appreciate that. This next one, I'm requesting to place an informational item on a future agenda for what's known as the Challenge Grant from Santa Clara County. It's grant funding that's available for modular units to be used for transitional housing on city-owned properties. There will be another round of Project Home Key funding that can be used in conjunction with this grant. With the traditional shelter model phasing out for future developments, the modular transitional housing concept has full-time wraparound services for residents and provides needed privacy for families experiencing homelessness. With that, I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions.
Okay, do council members want to comment? To me, that is something that requires funding. And so I would not be supporting that. We've already been through our budget.
Mayor, if I can just sort of clarify
Certainly.
questions. When we say on city property, have you or anyone else sort of figured out where that would be exactly?
I'll defer that to the city administrator, who's been in conversations with Office of Supportive Housing, Destination Home, and the other partners, but I have not been a part of that.
Okay, I don't see anyone else up on the board. So that would just be I'm sorry. What?
I'm sorry, Mayor, I wasn't sure. My question wasn't answered. I'm not sure.
Please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are two particular properties that have been discussed, and I don't want anybody to make the assumption that these discussions are far down the line, but we do have the property behind the car boxing center, which is a city parking lot, which I think most of us would agree is fairly underutilized. That's one possible location due to its proximity to transit. And then another potential property is not city-owned, but is county-owned, but we have had discussions with the Office of Supportive Housing for 8th and Alexander. Really any property that is owned by the city, and the city does have quite a bit of property, we should look at what the best use of that property is, whether or not we retain it for housing or we get rid of it or what have you. So we have had discussions just on those particular properties.
And City Administrator, question for you. You mentioned the property on 7th, or excuse me, behind the boxing rink there. Can't recall what.
6th Street. 6th and Railroad.
Given, all the many new businesses that are going up, and obviously we're going to have a lot more coming in, I understand it's not utilized, and part of it is our fault too, because we don't promote it to our residents enough, or they don't feel safe parking there. I'm just concerned that if we consider that location, we're losing how many parking spots?
52, I think, right, Jimmy? 51 or 52.
So, I mean, it's quite a bit. I mean, I'm open to the 8th and Alexander, but if we're talking about that property there, I would have to vote against it.
We're actually not talking about any property. That's my future council-initiated agenda is just for informational purposes
No, I
only.
know.
We're not identifying
No,
the property,
well,
so
I
please don't
understand
vote based on it.
No, I understand that, but there has been discussions, because what was just mentioned, 2 properties were identified, and what I'm sharing is that whatever this council decides, if it's in regards to that parking area, I'm going to vote against it. So, okay.
Okay, Councilmember Armendariz.
I think that whether or not it would require funding, I know Zach is saying it's just an informational item, but I think given the state of our, the families in our community, the amount of increase in homelessness and the cost of living in this area, I think it definitely merits a discussion and our time to discuss it and receive the information. So I would be supporting it.
Thank you. All right, any others? Okay, so then this is, just go down. I'm not. I need to see hands. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so it looks like it's coming back as informational. It was 5-2 if you need to know that.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, I want to make sure that we're focused on what you would like me to bring back. But I believe the request was for the challenge grant and modular units on city-owned property. I know we ventured off a little bit into mentioning some other things, but I want to make sure that's where we landed.
So that's in addition to trying for safe parking, right? Because we're still looking for that.
The discussion of one topic does not eliminate the discussion of another.
Okay,
So
yeah.
we're always talking
So
about
we'll
anything.
hear both. Okay. All right. Now, is there any other future agenda item request? Okay. Consent calendar. Is there any member of the council who wishes to remove something from the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none.
Make a motion to-
No, wait, I need public comment. Sorry. Okay, public comment, and can you tell me how many we have?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have received 1 public comment
Okay,
from Jan
great.
Guffey.
Okay. So there's Jan, if you want to speak on this item, this is the consent calendar. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Jan Guffey, and I live here in Gilroy. I would like you to consider to join with many other cities in Santa Clara County to declare this month, May 2022, as Affordable Housing Month. Affordable Housing Month 2022 is here. And during this month, SV at Home convenes our region's housing partners to host dozens of virtual workshops, webinars, creative community engagement opportunities to educate, activate, and engage advocates in the general public around the housing challenges facing our community and the solutions we can pursue together. The theme this year, Reimagining Home, invites participants to think outside the box, deepen their knowledge, and join together to shift the collective perspective on building equitable, inclusive, restorative communities. I want to help Gilroy be the best place it can be for everyone who lives here, whether we live in big, beautiful homes, small, crowded apartments, or in tents on our streets. I want Gilroy to join in the effort to lift housing, affordable housing to the top of the agenda so our kids can possibly afford to live here without having to move farther away. The many seminars and events presented by SV at Home's Affordable Housing Month will help lift the public's awareness as to what can be done to alleviate the housing crisis which is upon us. Please join with many other cities in our region by declaring this month, May 2022, as Affordable Housing Month and putting a link in the city's email blast about how we can all learn ways to work toward a more livable, vibrant city. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, no other comments?
I received no other speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Closing public comment. So do we have council members wanting to speak on this? No. Okay.
I was just going to second.
Oh, okay. So Councilmember Bracco made a motion to approve the consent calendar, and Councilmember Laura Munoz seconded it. Okay.
Councilmember Almendarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Lira Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley?
Yes. All right, item 7 is bids and proposals. We have none. Public hearings 8.1, approval of the Community Development Block Grant and Permanent Local Housing Allocation, Public Service Grant Allocations, and Community Development, wow, this feels like it's repetitive, but I'm reading what's here, Block Grant Annual Action Plan for the fiscal year 2022-2023, which was continued from our last meeting. So the public hearing is still open. We'll get to that, but first, does anyone need to excuse themselves?
I do, Mayor.
Okay.
I'd like to recuse myself from this item.
Thank you. And then do we have anyone who needs to disclose ex parte communications? That would be communications with any of the applicants of any kind. No? Okay, then with that, we'll go to Crystal for the report. Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Crystal Zamora. I'm the Programs Administrator. Thank you for this continued meeting. Just a little bit of background on the meeting. This is the continuation of the May 2nd public hearing. I'm going to be giving a CDBG award update, a little more of an explanation on the PLHA categories, the reserves, quick option updates, and then the recommendations. So we received on Friday our HUD allocation. Before then, it had been estimated. We not really sure when we're going to get them, but they were a little bit late this time. So unfortunately, we are receiving about $32,000 less than we had estimated from previous years. We're getting $438,000, not the $470 that we usually get. So for those who didn't get the memo, they are available on the table there. If you would like to see that whole memo, is this slide. So just really quickly, the adjustments that had to be made. If you see the chart, there's the gray area there. That's the original, and then the kind of like the light green is the updated amounts, because we have a few categories that we have to abide by. For example, we have a 15% public service grant maximum, as well as a 20% program administration maximum, and then the remaining, which is 65%, we've always dedicated it to non-housing community development. So just if you see on the side where it says the 15%, you can see in the red that it's the difference of what was estimated and now the actual. So that's about $4,700 for public service grants. 20% for program administration is about $6,300, and that actually will be borne through the HTF fund. And the 65% is taking the $20,000 will be adjusted to that amount, which is totaling just a little under $32,000. So council wanted a little bit more explanation on these things on the May 2nd meeting, so a few of the slides are just going to give a little bit more of that explanation. So PLHA has 3: homeless prevention, basic needs, and down payment assistance. So the first one is a definition, then just a quick example, and it's assisting persons currently housed but are at risk of homelessness. And it gives a few examples: rapid rehousing, rental assistance, case management. Now for basic needs, it's assisting persons currently experiencing homeless. And actually that definition is actually left a little bit broad, because it actually could also be grouped in the homeless prevention category. And the reason the county as well as the city wanted that is to be able to include things like food supplies, hygiene, referrals, and resource navigation in the community. And the last one is down payment assistance, and this is to fund home ownership opportunities. Income limits, it's still not yet defined, but it should be within about 120 to 150% of AMI, LMI. And this does include single-family homes, townhouses, condos. Just a quick update, not update, but just to clarify. So the program design starts this year, and the implementation will be 2024. So PLHA reserves, the amount, it was kind of made for potentially it could be a safe parking program down the line, or other related programs that could include services, goods, and homeless prevention basic need categories. We're receiving the 2 years full of funding July 1st. So, and actually it's the same with the grants, but we actually decided to divvy up by year, but the reserves would be available July 1st, 2022. And we would have to expend the reserves, the ones that we received technically in 2019 and 2024, and then the ones in the following year, 2025. So they would completely have to be exhausted by then. A little bit more on the compliance and monitoring. I know there were some questions about the city's CDBG and HTF programs, how we monitor them, and the process. It's pretty thorough. Some of the things that we do under CDBG is there's a whole application process, there's annual monitoring and evaluation, there's performance evaluations, and that is for the CDBG that we will continue to administer. PLHA would be administered by the county, and they'll have their own process, but it should be somewhat similar, and that's part of actually also the process that we're doing right now with them, is to make sure. So option updates. So option B, considering the memo, and that reflects the award, the CDBG award updates, is actually not going to be impacted at all. And then I'll show in the next slides why. In option D, which is a variety of organizations, this is actually the staff recommendation. And actually option D wasn't presented by the HNRC because we actually didn't have those amounts at the time, and definitely didn't have the CDBG awards amount at that time as well. So option B, like I mentioned, stays the same. If you see that the last one, we actually only have one CDBG eligible organization. So at the bottom, there's those 3 points. So it's 10,000. So we're in the clear there. We have it's $27,000 for that category. That one's fine. Again, PLHA isn't changed, but the PLHA reserve is updated, so that's $222,000. So for option D, which is more of a variety of organizations, the biggest change is, well, because of the impact to the public services that, we had to deduct the $4,700 or so, we actually had to omit one. There was just no way that we could stay within the PLHA, the CDBG minimums, which are $7,500. So we actually omitted Bay Area Community Health. Part of that decision was because they had only qualified for one funding year anyway, so we figured, okay, well, that's why we kind of had to adjust them to year 1, year 2, is to try to give them the opportunity to have that funding year that they did qualify for. So we went ahead and omitted them, and then just adjusted the others slightly. And as you see at the bottom, we do stay within the right on target with the CDBG 27,000 update, and then the reserve update is 118,000. Okay, so recommendations. So to conduct a public hearing and solicit comments from the public for the annual action plan, approve CDBG and PLHA funding staff recommendation option D, and then for the council to adopt the draft of the 22-23 annual action plan.
Okay. Thank you, Crystal. Okay, if it's all right with council, I'd like to continue the public hearing first and then come back to council for discussion, unless somebody's got something they wish. Okay, then Ty, why don't we go ahead and do that? And
Yes, Madam Mayor. I have
Open the
6
public-
speaker cards.
6, okay?
Yes. First is going to be Marty Estrada, followed by Sofia Montes, followed by Yesenia Andrade.
Okay, could all 3 of those names please come and sit in the front row? And then when your name is called next, please come on up so that we don't have to wait for people to get here. Okay, can you repeat those names, Ty? I only see 2 people up here.
Yes, Marty Estrada, Sofia Montes, and Yesenia Andrade.
Okay. Yesenia may not be here. Okay, go ahead. We'll start.
Thank you, City Council members. In terms of the CDBG funding, we would like you to consider funding Hiatus for the Rise Up program. This is a young girls program that provides services to young girls that are into the problems of either school issues, truancy, and also the juvenile justice system. And we're sorely needed a program here in Gilroy for young girls. I'll give you an example. We have another existing program. We just invited a female scientist from NASA to speak to the girls and giving them input. In Gilroy, there's a big problem we have. I sent everybody I gave everybody a copy of this particular graph, and it shows you the arrest records here in Gilroy. In 2020, there were 53% higher in Gilroy than they are in 95116 in terms of arrests and citations. What does that say? It says that there's a lot of girls getting arrested in Gilroy, particularly and also boys. We have a young man here, Santiago, who's 12 years old, who wants to be a police officer, and we want to connect him with Chief Espinosa, and I think he connected with him. And he wants to be a police officer. But there's a lot of kids in the pipeline. And what are we doing with these youth? We need to support these youth, boys and girls in Gilroy. I would suggest we start an impact committee, or we do a task force to look at that. In Gilroy, there's no youth center. If you talk about San Jose, there's youth centers all over the place through the Strong Initiative program. In every hotspot area, there's a community center. Gilroy, we don't have any. So we need to work together and figure out solutions. I would suggest we do a committee, but here for this purpose, we would love you to fund this youth program for girls and maybe expand it in the future. I know the general fund has $21 million, right? So maybe we can expand it a little bit. And then also for the same token on 8.1, we have we have a program called the Homeward Bound program that supports folks in our community with rental assistance, right, and deposit. We're willing to provide that to the service to the community. Now, it doesn't cost the city anything because I leverage that money through other funders like Season of Sharing, where they provide up to $5,000 per family. And so if you help us with this and approve this grant, then what we'll do is that we'll leverage others' monies to support people that live in Gilroy. And that accumulates really quickly. In San Jose, I submitted grants for thousands of dollars worth of funding. And so we're asking the city council to approve that and the Rise Up program for young girls. And then think about, let's work together and have some kind of committee to talk about what's happening in Gilroy youth. Under this particular slide here, under the slide, the Juvenile Justice Annual Report, this is a report by Santa Clara County. It shows the arrest records across the board.
Hey, sir, I'm sorry, you're out of time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, next speaker.
Sophia Montes, and I'm guessing Yesenia Andrade is not here.
No, she's here now.
Oh, okay, thank
you.
you.
And then who's after that?
Followed by Gabriela Mendoza.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Yesenia Andrade, and I'll be speaking about Rise Up. As we already know, there isn't many young women programs in Gilroy. Having the Rise Up program would help out those young ladies and at-risk girls find their way in life. It would create space for young women to have a place to talk, give them opportunities to learn leadership skills, meet new people, create healthy ways to cope with whatever they have going on by getting them better opportunities and programs for at-risk young ladies. We would lower the arrest rate of young girls being arrested in Gilroy. Being part of a youth group, Ashley at Caras, really changed my way of thinking. They helped me find ways by leading me in the right way, teaching me new skills I would never learn without their mentorship, and also by helping me find a job adequate for my skills. By helping fund Caras from them to have the Rise Up program, it would not only affect the young women in an amazing way, but it would also impact our community and school and the streets. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Yesenia Andrade, followed by Gabriela Mendoza, followed by Alexis Guzman Alagorn.
Hello, my name is Sophia Montes, and I'm here to tell you about my experience with the Caras Youth Group. I've been attending this program since I was in 6th grade, and now I am a freshman in high school. Going into middle school was tough since I struggled to find my identity and would try to fit in, which led me into a lot of problems and getting in trouble. I hung out with the wrong crowd and would easily get into peer pressure. Attending groups at Caras helped me a lot. They helped me stay out of the streets and kept me busy. I looked forward to the groups because it was my safe place where I can express myself and not be afraid of getting criticized or judged. I learned about my mental health, my culture, and my rights, and if it weren't for these kinds of programs, I would have ended up in the juvenile hall. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next speaker.
If the youth are not initiated into the village, they will burn it down just to feel its warmth. African proverb. Good evening. My name is Gabriela Mendoza. I am here to ask for more support and services for the young women in our community by funding the Rise Up program. I meet with many young women on a day-to-day basis. They gather at our Caras office bringing in their palabra, credible word, along with their gifts and baggages. Most of these young women are of color, and they come from low-income families. They are eager to be influenced in a positive and empowering way. They are begging to be paid attention to and searching for attention in all the wrong places. Love is what these girls seek, and they are seeking it within their peers and within their environments. In some point of their lives, someone close to them demonstrated that love is given and taken easily. Nobody demonstrated self-love to them. So now we see so many young and bright young women confused about love and wanting to cause attention in a negative way, acting out in schools and in the public, perhaps because there was no one out there to take time to listen to them like Rebecca Armendariz did to me. Be a positive role model as well. Their lack of self-love has demonstrated and has been proven for South County having the highest youth incarceration rates. We ask ourselves that what is going on with this new generation? They have no respect, no values. I strongly believe that it is because of nobody demonstrating self-love, values, and self-worth. Programs where young women like the ones I see day to day to feel safe and open up to speak about their traumas is what we need. Speaking about their heartbreaks and what they are passionate about, setting goals. They need a space to let out their creativity where community mentors will help them set those goals for them and encourage them to graduate and get their higher education. A program where the young women will be heard and learn that they are sacred and have power within to love themselves, be a positive example to other girls. Please, please give an opportunity for our young women to feel loved and feel the warmth of their community for once.
Thank you. Next speaker. Next speaker is
Alexis Guzman Alacorn, followed by Isabel Santos.
is okay. And then how many more?
That's
So,
the last
okay.
one.
Very good. Thank you.
Hello, City Council. My name is Alexis Guzman Alarcon, and I'm here to inform you about the Rise Up program. How is the Rise Up program important? It's important because young, innocent women are being arrested for their color and or race. These girls require self-esteem. They require a good example to stay in the right path, to live their lives normally, yet are arrested out in the streets from unjust assumptions or having and or dealing drugs, alcohol, or assumed to be delinquents from past actions, previous and or current criminal records from family members such as cousins, parents, and guardians. All these efforts and vast amounts of money to put into such things to punish, teach, and prevent them from going down a bad path of actions later down their lives by sending them to juvie and or juvenile ranches only draws into a stockpile of teenage boys and girls that will influence the young women to do what they've been trying to prevent. Yet there are better solutions. Programs like Rise Up from Caras can assist previous, current, and developing problems that are causing troubles in their lives. Caras has already helped and continues to help young, troubled women that need to develop important life skills and assist with relieving past and or current stresses and will be a better solution than juvie.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Isabel Santos.
Hi everyone, my name is Isabel Santos. I'm an intern at Caras. I've been working closely with high-risk youth now for about 4 years. I started off as a high-risk youth myself. I have seen so many young women not having any place or anyone to go to for help in raising their self-esteem, someone besides their friends or school counselors and teachers to talk about their traumas, needs, and goals. I see myself in them every time we gather in our young women circulos. We need to open up a space for young women to open up, feel welcome with a sense of belonging. Gilroy needs to support young women so they can be encouraged by community mentors such as people who have been impacted the same way as these youth, same things that they've been through, because I know for myself, If it was someone with a suit and tie, I would not feel comfortable. Mentors like the ones I have been encouraged by at Cara, such as Rebecca Armendariz, Raimundo, Gabby, and Sally. The young women in Gilroy need a safe, cultural, and loving environment where they can find their identity, feel empowered, and feel a sense of belonging. I think that Gilroy should fund the Rise Up program so that young women can have a space to hang out after school, be involved in productive activities, and slowly but surely change their mentality in their lives, one brown/Chicana at a time. The reason why I say brown is because data shows the majority of teens incarcerated in South County are of colored skin. That is why we as a community must work together in finding not only a solution to this matter, but also demonstrating to our young people that we hear them and that their mental state matters to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does that conclude public speakers?
I have received no other speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
No other speaker cards. Okay,
Correct.
so then with that, I'm going to close the public hearing, and it is 7:20. Close enough. Okay, and coming to council for discussion. So if anybody has anything to say, you want to put yourself on the board so I can call on you. Carol, can you maybe close the one next to you? Okay, Councilmember Bracco.
Yeah, I have a few questions. Can you come back up? Are we tracking where the money goes? I went online, and the government has a website, and you can track most nonprofits. I can't find any of these on there. And they on the nonprofits they track, it shows how much they spend on salaries, how much they spend on facilities, and how much actually goes to the end client.
Are you referring to nonprofit status, 501c3 status, or 990 forms as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so every time we have proposals for public services, for public service grants, everybody has to submit that, and staff checks everybody's financial statements, new or continuing, as well as nonprofit status for that year. So we don't check 990s. We don't have to. We check their nonprofit status.
So you don't know how much of every dollar goes towards what their mission is?
We part of their financial statements is asking for, they have a few options depending on their size. For instance, a larger organization may be able to afford a single audit, so that would be the document we ask for them. For smaller organizations that don't have the capacity or the budget to do a full audit, we ask them for a copy of their financial statements or profit and loss statement. So we do, yeah.
So, just pick one. The Compassion Center. How much of every dollar goes to the client? Do you know?
I mean, that's not what we do in the process. We make sure that
we don't track it.
Well, can I maybe try to help here? I know that I asked to see all of the financial statement, the P&Ls, right, from each, and I thought you told me it was only available for the new applicants.
Yeah, and my apologies, Mayor. I actually thought we were talking in the context of just the new ones, and so I sent you just the new organizations that had.
So I could have seen all of them?
Yes, they're all available, and so I apologize for that. So the two organizations that were new, which was the Boys and Girls Club and Caras, I did send, I believe Jimmy forwarded those to you.
Yeah, I have those. I'm just saying, I'm just now being told that I could have seen the others.
Yeah, yes, I could.
Okay, I didn't know that, so I have seen the two that were the ones I thought were the only ones that were available for me to see, and I can see what percentage goes.
Well, every year I've asked for this information on all of them.
Well, apparently it's available.
We don't get it.
Yes, they're available.
So why wasn't it in our information?
I see Jimmy reaching. I don't know if you want to.
The packet that you have for council is the one that's been vetted by the HNRC and city staff. So they're supporting documentation of every application. We just not have historically included the entire application with that. We've included the recommendation and the amount. That data is available to anybody. It's public record. The question you're asking about percent of dollars that go to actual programs versus administration or wherever, that's typically calculated for extremely large organizations, say for instance like the American Cancer Society or the Leukemia Society, very small programs that only receive $7,500, $10,000, or $20,000. Typically most of their is going to go straight to salaries because the individuals produce the programs. So it's not always an effective number for the very small type of organizations to see what kind of overhead they have, because they have a whole bunch of different types of programs.
So, Jimmy, before you became city manager, the finances was your job. Did you look at their paperwork and make sure that the money that we're giving them, I know it's not our money, it's the government just lets us dole it out, but I think we should still be good stewards of it and make sure it's going where it's supposed to.
And that's why we contract with the county, because they have the ability and they have the staff to do that. Example is the PHLA money that the city of Gilroy allocated to the county to oversee. They have the staff, they have the procedures, and they follow HCD procedures to ensure that happens. That does not happen at the city level due to just the number of staff that we have, and it's not our role either. We have the right to inject ourselves at any part of that process, but we have outsourced that essentially to the county to do
So
for
somebody
us.
is
Yes.
minding the chicken coop.
Yes. And if any program that is put on, HCD dollars are heavily monitored. We have had organizations in the past that did not receive future funding because of their inability to conform to the standards. So that is vetted out through the county and through the HCD process.
Thank you. I finally got an answer.
Okay, can I please, I'm sorry.
Just one more comment on that.
Okay.
And I have the binder full of policy and procedures and the application. And on the application, the second to the last page, as part of just even be able to apply, like for us to even see it, you have to have your financial documents in there. So if that were not included, we wouldn't even read your application. So just so that.
Okay, Councilmember Tovar, if you don't mind, I'd like to reply. Yeah, because since there were only two that I knew I could get, I have those two. And so to respond to your question, for example, the Boys and Girls Scouts Club, okay, they've submitted their statement of functional expenses, 71%. Salaries, benefits, and payroll taxes. It's 71% of total expenses. That's not unusual. I've been on the boards of many nonprofits, so you can think what you want of it. I'm just saying 71%. For Hiatus, the profit and loss statement that they submitted for 2021, it's 78% on the statement. It's their internal statement. Goes towards anything related to compensation. So it's not that those numbers are out of whack for what a lot of nonprofits do, and none of this information speaks to if the money's going to what you thought it was going to. That's a whole separate question. But the financials do tell you, you can see line by line expenses, so you can calculate what percentage of the total goes to compensation. But it is common for upwards of 70% to go towards, right, unless it's a purely volunteer organization. Yeah, that's what I thought you were asking, so I wanted to share that with you for the two that I had the statements for. Then tax returns are a separate thing. Tax returns are things you'd have to go look up, and they're only available for organizations who file them. So, okay. Councilmember?
Just one quick little overview too. So the way that it works with us, so you get awarded a certain amount, right? So it was CDG and HTF before, and we don't give an upfront check to okay, let's say you were awarded $20,000 and we just send it to you and then you have to provide documentation after. You actually provide reimbursement, so depending on how much you have. So we check quarterly reports, and if there's two things, is if you check the financial documents, and if they match, then we will cut the check. The other thing is, are they meeting their obligation of milestones? So they said they were gonna, service 20 families for XYZ. So we check those things too. So there's a narrative report, and then there's a financial report that's quarterly, and that's the only way they actually receive their funds.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. I have several questions. I'm going to go all over the place. I'm going to go to you, probably Jimmy, probably. So I just want to make sure. So first of all, I want to thank the young adults that were here speaking tonight. I appreciate your comments. As somebody who last council meeting, I sort of had to defend sort of the organization and the work that they do, because I've seen it firsthand, the work that you guys do. So again, thank you for the services that you provide. But and there's been a lot of discussion, and I'm looking at it the whole picture here, because something that the mayor just mentioned is very concerning. But she says it's it's common, is we're up to 70, and what was mentioned, Gatas, 78% of the, correct me if I'm wrong here, of their funding goes to administrative costs. So I guess that concerns me, because then you're looking at 21% of that funding is only going to services. So I don't, maybe I'm the only one.
To compensation, I said, not administrative costs are different. I didn't include
No,
rent in there, I didn't,
Right,
yeah,
okay.
just the compensation.
I'm just looking at what percentage of those go toward actual services. You know, I think that's my concern. Please.
Yeah, Mr. Tovar, the term administration is used interchangeably in different organizations. For example, in the city of Gilroy, about 70% of all of our expenditures goes to salaries.
Right.
In the HCD world, salary is a part of administration. So the programs are put on by people who receive compensation. So the leftover is not what goes to the program. The people are the program, and there are some other administrative costs. So it's very difficult to say that just because someone got a salary, it's administrative.
Right. Oh, that makes perfect sense. Thank you for that. But one of the things, again, that's concerning, or I'm just trying to get clarification, and I think this might be to my fellow colleagues, because I want to make sure, because years ago, I had a family member who wanted to apply for a job, and they said that no, because directly related to me, and it's a benefit, so I told them you can't apply. I mean, that's part of our charter, right? But some of the things I heard as well, one of our council members is directly related to this organization and may have family members that are benefiting financially, whatever way. I don't know. Those are just what I heard. I guess that's a concern of mine, because I want to make sure, because it's my understanding with anything that a council member and or their direct family cannot benefit from this type of grant funding. Am I correct in saying that?
I think that question probably should go to Andy, but I think what you're asking is, that because it's such a high percentage of compensation, and compensation is going to family, that's the question.
Well, excuse me. The issue really is Government Code 1090. And Government Code 1090 essentially says that elected officials cannot participate in the making of contracts that benefit them personally, and that can include their close family as well. Now, the fact that money to an organization may or may not benefit them, the fact that they're on the board, if they're on the board of an organization, it doesn't necessarily mean they're benefited, for example. And the FPPC says that's only true. They're only getting a benefit if they're actually paid on the board. For example, a volunteer board member, there's no FPPC issue, and presumably no 1090 issue as well. So I guess the short answer, Councilmember Tovar, is it's a pretty complicated issue. Right. But the fact that money going to these organizations goes to support the people who provide the services in the organizations is not a disqualifying factor in any way from the city voting to give money to the organizations.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, and again, I want to go back to some of the comments that were made earlier by some of the speakers. Again, I appreciate the services, obviously, and I agree. I think we need more services for our youth, especially for our young females, and I'd be more than happy to help out in any way possible. Again, but for me, I sort of did a little research trying to find, because I took a lot of heat for sticking up for this organization, so I wanted to do some research and stuff, and I went back and I saw that they had 10 employees. I don't know the names of those employees. I don't know who they are, because I have no direct connection with them. So I guess my question, my concern is kind of unanswered, because I don't know who's benefiting directly from this. I mean, if it's not any, if it's not anybody that's not supposed to be benefiting, I'm all for it. But if it is, then I have a concern. And I guess that's sort of my unanswered questions, because I would hate for this organization or any other organization on here to put the city in a very bad situation. Not the services, which are great, just sort of knowing that somebody may be benefiting from funding. So I don't know where I stand on this, because I don't have my questions answered directly. So I'll wait to hear what everybody says, but that's sort of where I'm concerned, and I have to vote on my conscience. And if I don't have those answers, then I can't vote for something like that. So that's it.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Marks.
I want to thank you, Crystal. I sent Crystal a list of questions that I had, and she did a very good job of answering my concerns. And I guess I just have a comment here. I'm really happy you talked about reimbursement, because that was one of my questions. And I think that's really important for the public to understand. The service has to be rendered before they get reimbursed. And when we talk about maybe 71 or 76% of administration costs, correct me if I'm wrong, but if there is a nonprofit who is going to be rehabbing certain parts of homes for people, that administration could also be staff, right? So if they're getting paid, they are the ones rendering the services. Okay, let me give you an example. Last year we had someone who needed a new front porch built. So the nonprofit paid for it out of this money. Would they be the ones, their staff, repairing that? Or do they contract it out? That's my question.
Are you referring to RST?
Well, when we say 76% gets administrative costs from the money they get, that only leaves 24%.
76%. I'm not, I don't understand.
Okay,
76%.
on the tax form, okay.
Oh,
the
I believe
mayor
that was
talking.
for two organizations. Are you talking about rebuilding the rehabilitation program? Because Madam Mayor was referencing
I was only referencing two
yeah,
specific
Right,
organizations.
no, she's
They're
doing
not
two.
housing things.
So I'm just trying to get a clarification in my mind that if a nonprofit is putting in, let's just say 80% of the money they get towards staffing and administration, then they're only using 20% of their money towards what they're supposed to be doing, correct?
Well, I mean,
like, and I'm just using rebuilding a homes, making repairs as an example.
It depends on the organization. Like Madam Mayor said, she had just seen the two.
Yeah.
But that is one of the items that we review when we're doing quarterly reimbursements is, I mean, the amount of paperwork, I will tell you specifically for the rebuilding program, those invoices alone are about 98 pages. So, I mean, we are getting, and we check every single line. Is this payroll? Is this, different things that they're using for the fixing? And then, there's just like a whole process with them. They're like a little bit different. We have to go through environmentals. They do have an administrative fee, and that is considered as part of their reimbursement. But off the top of my head, I can't say that they use 80 or 20% of that.
Okay, so if someone applies and says, we are going to repair 20 houses at $2,000 a piece, then when you go through, you check to make sure they have absolutely done it. And suppose at a quarterly report, someone has not completed what they said they were going to do. Are they dropped immediately from the program?
Well, we first ask them, we do the follow-up, we do our due diligence. We're like, oh, maybe they forgot, or we noticed, we have findings, just like how we have to have findings with the, through the HUD program, we may have that too. So we do the same thing with them. We send the letter and we give them a time to give us back those documents. If they don't, well, technically they don't have to give us anything back because we never paid them. So it's a reimbursement.
But
so we just wouldn't give it to them.
Okay, so you wouldn't give it to them, but again, would they be dropped just for the program? So you're not fulfilling what you said you're going to do, so we could bring in someone else, or we're going to do something else with that money.
Yeah, I think that would be the highly likely case because you have a non-performer and you're not paying the money out. We do not want to keep that money because we lose it. So we want to give it to a provider who follows through with what they say they're going to do.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Thank you.
And before I go to Councilmember Laura Munoz, I'm going to again reiterate that the percentages that goes to compensation being as high as like 70, 80% is not uncommon. It's like a lot of us get, emails and things saying Goodwill to donate, right, to Goodwill versus Salvation Army, because Goodwill has a much higher percentage and less of your dollar is going to the cause versus Salvation Army. So those are things where everybody has to do their own homework on it. It's a common thing. I think what Councilmember Tovar was referring to was who's on the compensation. Yeah, which is different. Exactly. Okay, Councilmember Laura Munoz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In fact, that segues right into my question then. So if there is a concern from some of our council members about who directly will be compensated from this pot of money that an organization might receive, can you share a little bit about what process or procedure the city uses to review who's an employee, who's compensated, who might be receiving some of that money?
Yeah, that's something that would see in the first quarter report. Like, in order for them to get their payment, we do those, every quarter, and we would see payroll, who is going to, services, that they administer. So are you saying as far as like, because we also have a whole monitoring and evaluation protocol that we use for those.
So before money goes specifically to an organization,
We review it.
you review it first.
Two things we review. We review all the financial statements, and then they also have to, all organizations have to submit, attached with that is a narrative report, and that directly ties to, are they reaching their numbers? Why not? We kind of see, if they haven't reached their full amount by the year, that's one thing, but we have quarterly, those reports, that's what they show.
And is there anything at this point that's led you to believe that any of the organizations would have people who receiving the compensation that they shouldn't?
No. I mean, the only times in the past that I'm aware of that we have ever asked for reimbursement back, but it has been through like a HUD finding. So, and it was them telling us like, hey, like this doesn't qualify for whatever reason. And then we would then, since they're our subrecipient, we would ask them. But that I don't think has happened. But
okay. But right now, there's no reason to think any of the organizations would have people who shouldn't be compensated
I don't
from the money.
believe so. No. I mean,
not at this point. I'm not asking you to guarantee it.
Well, because it's just an application. They've applied.
No, I'm just asking.
I know. I've got some comments too.
That's it.
Councilmember Tovar, do you want to?
Yeah, no.
Again?
Thank you for following up. And I don't know if I was helped
I've got
out.
some things to say too.
Okay, because I mean, I understand what you're saying, but if somebody was telling me nobody is, then I would feel more comfortable. But I see a lot of gray area here, and I'm not sure.
I think it's because it's the because right now the ones we're referring to are the ones that just applied. So I can't say, oh yes, we've had 2 quarters in and we know how they're doing. This is for the two, this is actually for 2 fiscal years. It's for the next 2 years. So I wouldn't be able to say yes because I haven't received anything yet.
And just to close, I mean, in following up with Councilmember Brockville, I mean, great questions in regards to, gathering all that information. I think in the future, and I don't know what's legal or not, but to have those details, of every organization, who are their employees, who are their board members, I mean, that way, because we wouldn't be having this discussion right now, and I don't know if you can do that. That's what I'm saying.
We do have those documents. I mean, that is part of their application. And I'm happy, I mean, that's public. I'm happy to share that we have a binder, full of those, even for the applicants. And this is what the HNRC process went through. They got copies, like it's available to the public. I'm happy to share it with you just so that you can see what we're asking for and then also like who applied. So,
okay.
Happy
so
to
it's kind of like our next item on the agenda, where if you want ketchup, you got to ask for the ketchup. Okay, the ketchup is not going to be given to you unless you ask for the ketchup. Okay, okay. But I asked for the ketchup. Okay, and so I just didn't know that I could have gotten it all, but that's okay. So I got what I got, and that's what what I'm using. And because I want to remind everybody that this was an item continued from 2 weeks ago, and when we thought we were going to be voting on it then. We had Live Oak Adult Day Services come and speak, and we also had the Health Trust come and speak. So I don't want us to forget about it. They were here when they thought we were voting on this, and what's happening tonight just happened tonight. For whatever reason, it happened tonight and not 2 weeks ago. Okay, so I told you I looked at the financials for the 2 that I knew I could look at, and that upwards of 70% is not unusual. But then I went, because I do know that one of these organizations, and only one that I'm aware of, is associated with a current council member. So I did try to look up the tax returns for those, which again, anybody can look up, assuming they're filed. And what I found was filed in February of 2022 was the 2020 tax return. So that's the latest one I have. And there are 10 employees. And what I can't get are who the employees are. And because this is a logo, this organization, and this is not saying anything about the organization itself or what it does. This is just saying that this is an organization very closely affiliated with a council member. Its logo is used on all of her stuff, and her family members are involved in it. And so personally, I can't support public money going to an organization that is that closely affiliated with a current council member. And that's my only reason for saying that. There is no other reason for it. So that is my position on this issue. Otherwise, I think option D does a much better, my opinion, job than option B does. It benefits way more organizations, and I appreciate how staff came up with those numbers there. But I would reallocate the ones that are going to the organization affiliated with the council member to the other organizations in the same percentage. That's what I would do. Okay, Councilmember LaRomanos, did you want to speak? Do you want to speak again?
No, that was no, that was from earlier. But was that a motion on your?
Oh, I'd be happy to make that motion.
Well, wait a minute. I have something I want to ask.
And so do I.
Okay. All right. Well, Crystal, because I feel I have insufficient information right now with this one organization. Now, you said you have all of their employees listed for all the nonprofits, correct?
Yes, part of.
All right, well then can you answer the mayor's question then? If there's any family members on the payroll?
So one of the
I'll
requirements.
answer that question. We've never paid them a dime, so we don't have any records as to who that money would go to or quite yet. We have no
So,
history.
Well, what we do have is a current organizational chart, and we have designation or authoritating official, current list of board of directors, and then that's just a few of the things on there. But as Jimmy said, no, it's
But
a
we
new-
have no idea if they're paid or not, correct?
No, the board probably is not paid. It's the employees. Okay. Who else has it? Zach? Sorry, Councilmember Hilton?
Thank you. I too was doing research on this, and let's be clear that this is a program that doesn't exist out there. RISE, we heard the testimony from them and the organizers, and it's a program that's not. It needs funding. As a matter of fact, there's stuff later on tonight that I would rather have funding to go towards this. And during my research of this organization, I had the same questions, and what I was told from them is that Councilmember Armendariz is on the board, but she is unpaid. She's not an employee of this organization. She's decided to recuse herself, so there is no conflict of interest. That's what I've heard. So hopefully that can make you feel a little bit more of ease, since that person is not here to defend themselves, and we're talking about them.
This is, okay, this is not about defending. I'm sorry, that wasn't where this went at all. Okay, Councilmember Bracco?
Yeah, I just want to be clear where I stand on this. It has nothing to do about the organization that's been discussed here. Every year I've asked for information and got some this year. And I give money to charity, and I would never donate any money to a charity that only gets 20% to the end user. You can go online and look, like Shriners and Wounded Warriors and Tunnels to Towers. They're operating at 10% or less for administration. All the money is going to the end user. I know we usually do this because, well, it's not our money. The government gave us the money to give it away. Well, just throwing money away is not helping anyone. So for me, I would rather just give the money back to the government and tell them to keep it. Thank you.
I'd like to address the city council on this issue that.
Okay, it's not, the public hearing is closed. I'm sorry.
But it's not 70%, it's 10% that goes to a specific program.
Okay, sir, we're not, I'm sorry, you can't, no, not from there. No, not unless we open the public hearing again. And
false narratives, I would like for him to address that. He is
the
from
public,
organization.
do I have to open the public hearing again?
If the council wants to. No, you do not have to open it, but if the council can vote to open the public hearing.
Okay, so let me finish with, get the council talk. I would like to make the motion that I think I would like to make for. If it's seconded, then we'll have that on the table. And if this council would like to open the public hearing again, we can do that. Okay, Councilmember Tovar.
Sorry, thank you.
Oh, Councilmember Dion wasn't finished. I'm sorry.
Also, I've brought it up before that, like city teams, all you ever see them doing is sitting around downtown on a bench smoking cigarettes. I don't see that. And you know, I'm just tired of just giving the money away. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. And I will say, yeah, I'm supportive of reopening for public comment. But again, you know, the question I have, until I feel comfortable, I might have to abstain from this vote because I just need to get this information. And I understand that Councilmember Armendariz is not directly benefiting, which I figured, and I feel great about that. But I think the initial question I had, I want to make sure that I have it clear, is any council member and or their family members are prohibited from financially gaining from, you know, from funding. So having family member on the board or running or whatever, is that, are we in trouble for that? That's the question I have, you know, if the funding goes to the organization. If not, I'm all for it, because again, I agree, the services are wonderful and we need more of them, but you know, we represent the community and the taxpayers, and I want to make sure I can go out there and tell the taxpayers everything is 100% good, fine, nothing to worry about. So, you know, again, I haven't got that question answered yet, so you know.
Councilmember Marks.
I agree with Councilmember Tovar. We don't have enough information right now. And it's hard because even though Councilmember Armendariz is on the board, her brother and mother being paid? We don't know that. So I do want to see this public comments period opened up again because we have questions. I have questions.
Okay, I don't think those questions are going to get answered tonight, but maybe I'm wrong because you're asking for names, and I don't think you're going to get that. I want to reiterate that if you're going to use a standard like Councilmember Braca was saying, that only 20% or more than that, if 20% or 30% is all that's going to go and the rest cannot be compensation, you're going to not approve any of these. Because that is a common thing with nonprofits. So you would have to start and look at all this. So I want to be clear that my position may be, I mean, we may end up voting the same way, but I want to be clear that my reason is because of an affiliation with the council member, a very close affiliation. I don't need to have those specific names because I already know, just in the time I've been mayor and being on the city council, what that affiliation is. Those things have been just as recent as this year. And so that just makes me uncomfortable, and it's not about the program at all. It's about the affiliation while we have a sitting council member, and that is just how I feel. Everybody's going to have to vote how they feel. So my motion is for option D, but with reallocating the two amounts, the $8,500 and the $20,000, to the other organizations within option D in the same percentages. That's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Now, does this council wish to reopen the public hearing? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we are going to reopen the public hearing. How many speaker cards are there? Well, somebody else is walking, so I don't know if that's going to be 2. Yeah, see, okay. This is what, do we want to open it for any number? Everybody? No, I say, well, I'm sorry, but I see 2 people saying yes down here.
Yes, this is important.
Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3 to 3. So that means what? 3 to 3 to open the public hearing for an unlimited number. We already had a public hearing. Okay.
Well, we only have 3, right?
When you open it, Carol, you open it.
Well, go for it.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead. Ty, can you start the clock?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. How about can we do it in 2 minutes each instead of the 3 that you had before?
I'll try.
You'll try. Well, we need
Can
to
you give me
assign,
3
I need to
minutes
assign
according
a
to
certain
the-
time. I'm going to say, is this council okay with 2
There's
minutes?
only 3 speakers, Mayor.
So far.
3 speakers. There's
So
not going to
far.
be no more speakers. It's 3.
Oh, okay.
If you
So
can
you're
give us
limiting
3
it to
minutes
3?
each, I'd appreciate that.
Okay, go ahead.
There's a misconception of what's going on here.
I don't think so.
Yes, there is. 70% of a grant does not go to overhead, does not go to administration. 70% of that doesn't. For example, if we get funded $5,000, 10% of that may go to overhead. That's it. The rest goes to the program, supplies, staffing, and services to the youth. That's what we do. Sally Armendariz is not getting paid through these grants. Rebecca, the council member, is not getting paid through these grants. The son, Raimundo, is not getting paid through these grants. I will administer this grant. I will get paid through the grant. So there's nothing going on here that's nefarious. You make it sound like there's some issues going on. There's not. If you have a police department that services Gilroy through maybe a tow service, right? So does that mean that there's collusion there? No. We're providing services to youth that are very much needed.
I'm sorry, Ty, can he see the timer?
Yes, I believe he can see it on his
he can see it.
left-hand
Okay,
corner.
I'm sorry. Just want to make sure.
I can't see the timer, I'm sorry. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
We need these services for our youth. The programs that we've designed and purpose for the youth go to the youth. It's to provide the services for your city, Gilroy, so that these kids don't go back to jail or become a pipeline for kids to go to prison. We need to work on what's happening here in our society, and especially in Gilroy, where the arrest records are higher than they are in San Jose. We need to work out this. This isn't about Goddess being somehow nefarious and using the money for other things. That is not true. We are upholding the law and what we do. We're proud of what we do to the community and support. We're not doing anything illegal. We're not doing anything to move monies to do that, to put it over here. Every grant has its own cycle. If somebody else has a grant they're involved in, they get paid out of that grant, but it isn't coming from this grant here. This is a youth program. This is a youth program, and it's also benefiting folks that don't have a place to live, homeless prevention program, that supports the community at large, that I'm going to leverage money that Gilroy can't afford from other stakeholders in the county to get that bigger money so that way they can be safe at home and not be on the street. It's detrimental for you to say that this is something that's nefarious. We need to work together, and we need to support these communities by providing these services. Somebody comes knocking on our door and they need rent. What do? We provide them that avenue to get that money. It's not our money. It's pass-through money. But we need an anchor with the city to provide the services to the youth and families. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Raimundo Armendariz, followed by Sally Armendariz.
Well, good evening, everybody. I want to also thank you, Mr. Tovar and Mayor Blankley, for your comments last week in defense of the organization. I appreciate that. Also, it's good to hear that you guys definitely acknowledge our work, so I appreciate that as well. I do want to mention the grant both grants that Marty has just talked about, so passionately would definitely not pay myself or Sally, which is my mother, from the Caras staff. That program, the staff are in this room. She spoke, a couple of them spoke to you guys today already. One of the interns is here, or two of the interns are actually here in the audience. They get paid, or would be paid through the RISE program. And also, Gabriela Mendoza is the case manager that would be employed or would be funded by this RISE program grant. Like somebody mentioned earlier, the RISE program does not exist. We currently have a young women's program. I, myself, and a couple of folks wrote $1 million grant that brought $1 million from the state of California for at-risk youth here to Gilroy, has been here in Gilroy for 3 years now through the Youth Reinvestment Grant. And myself, Marty, Gabriela, and 4 interns are all staff that program. We work with the Office of Education. We provide classes on for young men at South County Annex here in Gilroy. It was a school managed by the the Board of Education, the Santa Clara County Office of Ed. But myself or Sally would not be funded through the RISE program or the housing program. Marty, he's our program coordinator. He would be funded through that program. Gabriela Mendoza is our case manager. She would be funded by that program. And 4 of the interns who spoke earlier today, who are teenagers here in Gilroy, would be funded by either RISE or that housing program. I am open to any questions you guys might have for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next speaker.
Sally Armendariz.
As you know, my name is Sally Armendariz, and just to clear everybody up, including the audience here that might be concerned about our 990s. Our 990s are current, and if you look at it, you got Google, go for it. I also brought this from the state of California that says we're in good standing, and you don't get this unless your 990 is in order and your 199 is in order. And I like to pass it. I had given it to the gentleman, but I guess he couldn't pass it. If you look at the date, it's dated April of 2022. That was before last meeting that you had. And the other thing, you know, I see where I don't get paid. I go to that office at 10 o'clock every day, and I leave at 7, 8 o'clock at night because I am serving my community. So to think that I'm going to take any money from the city of Gilroy or anyone else, you are mistaken. And if you're so, you know, people here are so concerned about Hiatus and what we do, stop by, you know. We're human. You know, Mr. Munoz, Mr. Tovar, you know, all of you here, especially you, Mr. Brocco, you know you're welcome there. Go there. We can open our books to you anytime because we have nothing to hide. I've told this police officer before, he has a job to do and he does it. I have a job to do and I do it because he has nothing to hide and we have nothing to hide. You know, we've been in existence for over 10 years. I think we've been in existence for 12 years now. We have never come to ask the city of Gilroy for money because I know you're not going to give it to us. You know, we're a low-income, grassroots organization, and that's who we serve, the people that are forgotten from Gilroy. And all of you, you know where our books are, you know where we're at. Go and look at it, and if you don't give us any money, nice. I didn't expect it because I know how you are. Thank you.
Okay. Closing that hearing. Do you need the time?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
8 p.m. I didn't get to when it opened, so hopefully you did. Okay, are the speakers on the board current?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Councilmember Bracco.
Yes, I just wanted to mention the gentleman that spoke first. His passion is moving. And I don't have any issues with this agency. I have issues with a few of them, but hearing some of the things said tonight, I don't think I should vote not to give any of them money because I have an issue with a couple of them. So I'm going to go ahead and support it. Thank you.
Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the speakers. You answered my question, you know, and again, it's never been about the services. For me, it's just sort of making sure that we were doing the right thing, and those were the questions I had that kept me from voting in favor of funding everybody here. But now that those have been answered, I as well will be in support of funding every organization on here.
Councilmember Marks.
I think it was very valuable to open up a second public hearing because, you know, as a former teacher, I know how valuable it is to have youth services. And it was really good to hear what these programs do and how the kids are supported because we do need more in the communities. So thank you.
Okay, and my comments were never directed at the programs or the services. I tried my best to say that in the beginning. This was strictly about the affiliation with the council member, and I would be saying this and feeling this way no matter what the organization and no matter which council member. So that is why I am feeling as I do. It's got nothing to do with the programs. Okay, so that is my motion. It does have a second. Can I call for that vote even as however it's going to go so that someone can make a new motion?
I can make a substitute motion if you would wish.
I'd like to vote on this, if that's all right.
If you want to vote, go.
Let me set up the voting centers in here.
Okay. Is it?
But can we repeat what the motion is? Yeah.
Yes, yes, because it's very different. Yeah, the motion is to go with option D, okay, but to reallocate the monies that are on there, the $8,500 and the $20,000 that are currently going to the organization the one organization that I'm aware of, so closely affiliated with the council member, has nothing to do with the council member getting paid. It just has to do with that affiliation, okay? And reallocating that money to the others in the percentage that they each currently are. I have those numbers, but let's see what the motion does first. But that's the motion. Okay. So are we on the screen?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Okay, so that has, look it up there. Okay, so it's 2 yeses and 4 nos, so that one fails. So Councilmember Hilton, you have a different motion?
Yes, Mayor. So I am going to make a motion that we approve option D for the Community Development Block Grant and PLHA Public Service Grants allocations for fiscal year 22 to 23 as recommended by staff.
Mayor, could I, or Zach, Councilmember Hilton?
Well, until there's a second, it's not a, yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay.
But could I ask for maybe, if I can, if it's even possible, to a slight amendment to that? Could we, moving forward, begin to get that information that we've been looking for in regards to who directly is benefiting from our grants? Moving forward, obviously, because I think it's not just today, but I think in the future it'd be good. Because, Mayor, you bring up some really good, valid points and concerns, and I just want to make sure that we don't have this type of discussion down the road again.
Could I give a comment, or are you guys still?
Okay.
No, I don't think, do you need Crystal to comment or should, no, thank you. So.
Sure.
Okay.
If that'll get your vote, yes.
Okay. So that's interpreted as a friendly amendment to the motion.
Correct. I'll accept.
Okay.
Okay. So Ty, are you clear on that motion?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's 6-1. I mean, 5-1. Sorry. Okay. All right. Moving on. Oh, sorry. And item C then on the agenda, we need to do the other piece. So the other piece is for the, to adopt the draft, to adopt the actual annual action plan. Does someone want to make a motion for that?
So move.
Second. Go ahead, Brocco.
Okay. Moved by Councilmember Tovar, seconded by Councilmember Bracco.
If you don't mind, do you mind if I just do a roll call vote on
Not
this
at
one?
all.
Thank you. Councilmember Armendariz is recused. Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Lira Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley?
Yes. All right. Now, item 9, unfinished business. We have none. Item 10, introduction of new business. Consideration of a resolution authorizing the enforcement of Assembly Bill number 1276, prohibiting food facilities from providing any single-use foodware accessory or standard condiment under certain conditions. And Bryce, you're going to give this report.
Yes, Mayor and Council. Staff is bringing this resolution to Council under the requirements of AB 1276, which is essentially banning the free distribution of single-use food accessories and condiment packets. The city is not, just to clarify, the city is not effective, making the law effective as far as the ban. That was done by the state, but the state did require in that law that cities and counties would then authorize an enforcement agency to actually carry out enforcement of this. In consultation with Morgan Hill Environmental Services, our co-opted staff for environmental services, it was recommended that cities adopt resolutions to make themselves enforcement. For us, that would be our code enforcement department. Given their responsibilities and the workforce they have and the workload they have, we're recommending that be complaint-based enforcement. That there's other more higher priority public health and safety issues they have to deal with. So with that, the adoption of the resolution meets that state requirement and keeps us in compliance. So happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Bryce. All right, council members, any questions? None? Okay. Public comment. Do we have any public comments on this item?
No speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Okay, then closing public comment and back to council. Anybody want to propose adopting the resolution?
Move approval of the recommendation from staff.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, I think I heard Councilmember Hilton first. Okay, so Councilmember Lira Munoz, seconded by Councilmember Hilton, and vote.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco?
No.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Lira Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley?
Yes. Okay, so that's 6-1. Gosh. All right, item 10.2. Actually, I'm going to ask for just a couple-minute break here if we could, because, yeah, it's 8 o'clock, and I've been trying to get in the habit of that, just for like 3 minutes.
Get his phone number off my phone. Old-fashioned paper and pen didn't work. You wash it? Who's they right there?
Yeah, it's tea. It's the sleepy time.
People get up there and just do this thing.
Yeah, he's really comfortable. He's really comfortable on the public speaking. Yes. And Gabby was one of my Moxa kids. She was, she's really young. And then she was a Moxa kid, and then at the school, remember Moxa had a charter school back in the day?
No.
There's prize money?
Second place in 170.
Nice.
Great.
Who were the judges? Because I was sitting by my car, nobody ever came by.
Yeah, see? Retired Gilroy cop.
What part are you at?
A Luton cop. Well, it was cool, but.
Okay. Well, then you're Ray.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was like a councilman.
Oh, yeah, and then she went, and then she became staff at Moxa. And by then I had left Moxa, so it was like 99. Remember? Yeah. Yeah, I worked there.
Okay, everybody, let's get back.
I saw a lot of kids go home. For sure.
Coming back, this is item 10.2, approve a school resource officer memorandum of understanding for fiscal year 2022-23. And Chief Pedro Espinoza will give the staff report.
Madam Mayor, members of council, and members of the community, item before you is a renewal of the MOU between the City of Gilroy and the Gilroy Unified School District for the continuance of the School Resource Officer Program. Back in October, we had the initial MOU approved, and we made some staffing priorities, and were able to get our first SRO in place during the month of December. And the second came on board during the month of January this year. And consistent with the MOU, we took a best practice approach to really identify their purpose on the school grounds, and collectively, we determined that really their primary role is to, one, maintain a safe and secure campus for both the students and staff, preserve life and property in a manner which promotes community, develop positive relationships with students, staff, and the community, support all staff at GSUD in securing and transporting prohibited confiscated items that are illegal to have on campus under California law, and certainly divert youth away from the criminal justice system through restorative justice programming and the South County Youth Task Force Restorative Justice Diversion Program. And lastly, connect youth with mental health behavior. During the school board meeting in April 21st, Dr. Padilla spoke as to the results of a school climate survey that was conducted and sent to the student population, staff, and the parents, and overwhelmingly they supported the school resource officers being present on school grounds. And to put a face to the name, these are both of our school resource officers that are currently serving the students here in the city of Gilroy. First, we have Dustin Odell. He's born and raised in Monterey County and attended North County High School. He graduated from Sacramento State University. He's got over 9 years on and currently is on our crime scene investigative team. Also is an advisor to our Explorer post. And he's also responsible for training our new police officers, the field training officer. He's married with 3 kids and 4th on the way. And his hobbies include enjoying spending time with his family. And he is a Giants fan and a Raider fan. That's a good thing. Second, we have Andrew Lopez. He is from Salinas. He graduated with a degree from Monterey Bay. He is bilingual. He's been a police officer for over 8 years. And as I spoke at our joint meeting with the school district, we do have, we wear different hats and have collateral assignments. So Andrew is part of our tactical team and has been also on the hostage negotiation team, which affords him the opportunity to receive advanced training. He's an investigator with the Major Accident Investigative Team, Bike Patrol, drone team, and is a first aid instructor. He enjoys spending time with his wife and 2 kids. On the right, you'll see that they went out collectively and received donation from the foundation to wrap their vehicles and make them less police-looking cars and a little bit more friendly. And on the left, you'll see that some of the data that's been collected since the beginning of the year through May 12th. And so this numbers covers the number of arrests at the school campuses. So citywide, there's been 22 arrests since the beginning of the year. And out of those 22 arrests, 7 of those have been at the school campuses. Since the beginning of the year, they've responded to 124 calls for service on school grounds. And really the important number here is that 72% of those calls have been mitigated either by a counseling session or referred to school for further disposition or to the parents. And out of those 124 calls, only 7 of those, or only 5%, actually resulted in a juvenile contact report. And a juvenile contact report, in essence, is the arrest. They don't get physically taken into custody, but they are released to a parent or a guardian with their promise to appear either before the probation department or a juvenile judge to answer to those charges with their parents. And the rest of that, 35 reports include some of those juvenile contact reports. And those juvenile contact reports could also include cases of abuse where the kid is taken into protective custody under the Welfare and Institution Code. On April 21st, the board unanimously voted to renew the school resource MOU for this 2022-2023 school year. And that is what staff is recommending that council consider renewing this MOU for the following school year. And again, this is a cost-sharing venture with the school district. And in essence, it generates revenue for the city. The full salary for the 2 SROs for fiscal year 23 is $514,643. Our portion, or the portion that we get reimbursed by the school district, is $257,321.50. Again, we are recommending that City Council authorize the city administrator renew the MOU between the city and the Gilroy Unified School District to continue this partnership. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Chief. All right, Council, if you could put your name up on the board. Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief. Thank you for all the work that you guys do. and maybe I should ask this question to the superintendent, but maybe Jimmy or you can answer this question. I'm all in favor of this, and obviously, if somebody doesn't beat me, I'll make the motion. But the MOU, is it an annually renewal, or is it, because me personally, I said, why even have it annual? Let's do it every year, but I don't know how that works out, so.
I think when we collectively agreed to re-implement the school resource program, we agreed to have it on a year-to-year basis until we get it established, came back to council and shared some of this data and determined if this was the best approach to have the officers back on campus. But yeah, eventually it could be a 2 or 3 year MOU.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'll push for that next time, because I think it's important that we not do this every year, obviously. And, you know, earlier there was comments that were made, I can't remember who said it, that their son or daughter wanted to be a police officer. And I appreciate you speaking with that individual. And, you know, my previous life on the school board, obviously, I saw firsthand what the SROs do. And, you know, I don't believe in that it causes more arrests than it does helping our students, because I've seen it firsthand. And the two individuals that you have on there, I've met both of them, great people. And actually, we should be grateful that there are SROs, so I'll be in support of it. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember, we do have representatives from the school district here, just so you know. Okay, Councilmember Hilton.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, can you explain a little bit on the staffing, the staggered staffing and the 40-hour work week, so that we can, I think the messaging just needs to be clear and upfront that this is not, that these two officers are not like standing guard, if you will, at these schools, but they could just be as likely of only having one on duty at that moment for training, vacation, because of the staggered shift, and they very well could be at Elliott Elementary doing a code red drill when something goes down at Christopher High. So, and then just, if you could just, you know, sort of provide that messaging, and also at the same time, I mean, I know your department is standing guard 24/7, no matter where anything goes down. There could be a motorcycle officer in front of Christopher High School that they need someone on campus, and they're going to respond. So if you could just provide that, I think that would help the public.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. When we agreed to the MOU, we agreed that we would try to have coverage every day of the week. And so one of the SROs works Monday through Thursday, and then the other one works Tuesday through Friday. So from Tuesday to Thursday, there's both of them are working. But you have to take into account that, you know, one or both of them could be in training, you know, i.e. restorative justice together, and the coverage would fall back on patrol. And so you're absolutely correct. You know, when there was a priority critical incident, we could pull them and utilize all available resources. And conversely, if it warrants, a patrol officer could very well respond to the school when they're not present and take that call for service. And of particular importance, it was when I made reference to the 72% of their calls out of the 124 that were mitigated with some other avenue. Had that been assigned to patrol, then those calls would have got prioritized with every other call in the city, which means that they would have a little bit, if not very minimal time to deal with that call, and they would have to expedite their disposition of those calls.
Thank you. And thank you for providing that data too about what's happened year over year. And I think that's important. That's what I would like to see, whether we're trending, you know, towards something different than what we do. And I know that's something that your office would probably want to analyze, you know, on a yearly basis as well. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Armendariz.
Yes, thank you. Chief, can you explain any influence or participation in the suspension or expulsion process that SROs might have, if any?
I don't think, you know, quite frankly, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think they have any. That's strictly an administrative function.
They're not asked to consult or speak or anything like that?
Yeah, that's not their role.
Okay, thank you. And then, can you walk us through how and when SROs apply restorative justice practices that they're trained on? Like, are they teaching a class? Are they, like, how do they practice that?
They're not teaching a class. One of the SROs was part of the circles for the diversion program. I would think that what they've learned in the restorative justice training, they're applying to their everyday dealings and trying to mitigate those calls where In all reality and legally, they could have made an arrest, but they're not. And so I would see that as the correlation.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for pointing that out to my school district friends here. I guess the question I asked earlier, because, and again, this is only me speaking, but I would like to make a motion that obviously we approve the MOU, but no, it's not, well, but in addition to that, we do this every 2 or 3 years, not annually. But I don't know if that's something that the school district can comment on. Is that something that the school district has to do, or we have to do it jointly, or you understand my question? If you can help me answer that question.
Hi, I'm Deborah Padilla. I'm the Director of Ed Services for Gilroy Unified, and I'm here on behalf of the superintendent. I do have a speaker card, but I can address your issue. Currently, our board has requested that this come back to the board annually, as we must present data showing exactly how the time accounting is being used by the SROs and what we are doing to work with our social worker positions as well. So currently it is an annual, and because it is joint funded, both organizations have to agree to the funding.
Okay. It's not the answer I wanted, but okay. Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no other questions from council, I'd like to open the public hearing or public comment.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have 8 speaker cards here. The first speaker is Marty Estrada, followed by Raimundo Armendariz, followed by Luis Castro.
How many cards?
8 speaker cards.
8 speaker cards. Okay. So.
Thank you again. We don't support SROs on campus. There was a great study done by the ACLU, who did a study on SRO on campuses, and they found that it causes criminalization of students' behavior and puts them into the justice system, juvenile justice system, rather than disciplining them at school. And that's the problem that we're having, is that, do we need another program outside of SRO? Yes, we do. We should be talking also in tandem of another youth program to provide restorative justice practices and other types of programs. The problem that I feel is that in school, a lot of these kids are going to be, getting into the juvenile justice system unfairly. There's a law that just passed, SB 203, that gives every student a right to know their rights. And that law says this, that a police cannot interrogate them, custodial interrogation, or interview them without an attorney present or having a connection to an attorney by phone. So this is the thing that we're looking at, is that we need other types of programming that's not being addressed. I also want to take a note to the fact that that survey that was done by the school district is flawed. The reason why it's flawed is because they lump teachers into families to do the survey. And if you look at the survey itself, it wasn't sent out to monolingual Spanish speakers, families. They did it online. Secondly, the fact that this survey, if you read the questions, they're leading questions. They're not saying anything contrary to what you want to hear in the leading questions. So that survey was flawed to begin with. You don't put teachers mixed with a survey of families concerning SROs. So we need to review that piece as well. But I think the most important thing is that what are we doing as a city council, the city of Gilroy, providing other sides of programming? Listen, you want to fund, which you are going to fund, $257,321. You're going to do that. Overall, $514,000. What are we doing with other types of programming that we should be having in tandem? This is what I don't see from the council. We should be working together, community, nonprofit, CBOs, restorative justice practices, and providing this service. When I talked to the diversion program, they first said that they weren't going to take cases from schools, but now they are. Because what's happening is the teacher says, hey, listen, I don't want to deal with Johnny. Call the police officer. Let him deal with him. So this is what's going to happen with these kids. And you shake your head, but the problem is that's what's going to happen. So we want to be, and I'm going to be looking at this data that's being reflective of how many kids get arrested for what. Because we need to look at other types of services for these youth. Not just SROs on campus. That's a big amount of money that we can utilize, at least put another program in tandem. Let's put together a task force, a youth task force to look at some other options. If you want to fund that, you're going to fund it. But let's look at some other monies to fund youth programming in Gilroy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Raimundo Armendariz, followed by Luis Castro, followed by Joel Simancas.
Good evening, everybody, once again. So definitely appreciate the very passionate comments from my colleague, Marty Estrada. I would like to build on a couple things that Marty mentioned, and that is that there should be alternatives considered that often are not a part of the conversation when we discuss SROs, especially in South County. These alternatives that I will discuss definitely are part of conversation across the state. I work with the National Center for Youth Law as well, and we have conversations all the time with counties outside of Santa Clara County, everywhere from San Francisco Bay Area to Southern California. There is a program that would be cost-effective and save dollars that would be spent on school resource officers that is already in place in Shreveport, Louisiana. Shreveport is actually about 3 times the size of Gilroy. They have had an issue with fights on campuses as well as high crime rates around the neighborhoods that schools are in, and they have a Dads on Duty program. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the Dads on Duty program, but it was covered in CBS recently, which is where we learned about it. And they have volunteer fathers from the neighborhoods that the kids live in. They go to those schools, and they come and do security at schools. And what's, I think, beneficial about a program like the Dads on Duty program is, one, kids aren't cited, so they never go into the justice system. Their names never get put in probation system or the police system, and they're not paid. They're completely volunteer. I've reached out to the school, Southwest High School in Shreveport, Louisiana, several times. I'm just waiting for those fathers to get back to me. But I think that they're probably in demand, which is why we haven't heard back from them. Secondly, is MSWs or social workers, people with a master in social work. I think for the cost of an MSW at $274,000, we could possibly get social workers or therapists or multiple social workers or multiple therapists and psychologists that could focus on a health-based approach to working with kids who, break policy, break rules, break laws on campuses. I think that in the end, I recently read a report from the San Francisco Chronicle that said that the cost of incarceration of a young person in Santa Clara County is $528,000 a year. So I think that on our end, the city of Gilroy would save money. The county of Santa Clara would save money if we could get a health-based approach where students, instead of getting contact from a school resource officer and possibly cited or arrested, and looking at the figures that, Chief Espinoza provided, 7 out of 22, that's 30%. That's a very high figure of youth being arrested on campus in our community. I think that would be a better expenditure of funds, and it would be health-based, meaning that we'd probably reduce recidivism in the end, and we wouldn't have kids coming back into the system again if they were able to just talk to a psychologist, talk to a therapist, talk to masters in social work. And then finally, I think that it would free up officers if we could spend those funds somewhere else to pursue issues like ghost guns, which of course is plaguing our community here in Santa Clara County. Fentanyl, another issue. Recaras lost a young person who graduated in 2018 from our Covanola program.
Time is up.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Luis Castro, followed by Joel Samancas, followed by Xavier Garcia.
Good evening. My name is Luis Castro. I am 14 years old. I am a student in Gilroy. I come here today to talk about SROs hired to be on school campus. I believe that the survey the district sent out for the parents and community members of Gilroy regarding the opinion of having SROs on campus was honestly unfair. The survey didn't have the option to change it to Spanish or at least translate the questions the survey was asking. There is this thing called digital divide, which is when the majority of population doesn't have access to technology or they don't have an email address, is the Latino population. I feel as though to gain the actual opinion of the students and the Latino Spanish-speaking community, the district needs to bring it up in more parent-teacher meetings, city council meetings, school district meetings, and to have the teachers from the entire GUS make this known to the kids by having them take the survey in class and make a presentation about SROs prior to the survey. By doing this, it would help increase the number of responses and make it a bigger percentage to go off data instead of you only having the response of English-speaking parents, community members, and school officials. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Joel Samancas, followed by Xavier Garcia, followed by Deborah Padilla.
Good afternoon. My name is Lloyd.
Yeah, put the microphone closer to where, yeah.
As a student of the Gilroy School District, I think in my opinion, SROs are unnecessary. I've seen fights, students tagging the walls, students yelling back at teachers, and so much worse. But other than that, I have never seen SRO stop an altercation or even try to prevent one. The staff from school, the teachers, and the administrators are the ones who mainly stop fights, give out citations or suspensions, and discipline the kids. I feel that instead of spending fully $500,000 on 2 cops to supervise and assist the school, you should put aside some money to fund resources for the at-risk kids who are causing problems at school, and hire campus supervisors or yard duties to help them handle the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Xavier Garcia, followed by Deborah Padilla, followed by Samuel Bass.
Okay, is Deborah Padilla in the room? Oh, yeah, okay.
Hello, City Council. My name is Xavier. I work with Community Agency for Resource Advocacy and Services. I'm speaking on behalf of some of our youth advocacy council members who believe they were not fairly represented or voiced regarding the hiring of SROs while attending Gilroy's local schools. Our members and I believe that if a decision involving the school's environment is in effect, then students should have a more accessible way of understanding what's going on and how they can voice their opinions on the matter. As a student, it is their right to have an open line of communication in matters that directly affect their community and well-being. Along with this, some of our Youth Advocacy Council believe that Hispanic parents may have felt hesitant about getting involved due to their limited English skills. Perhaps finding a way to send more special or personal notes and materials in Spanish or holding more parent meetings with translators to keep more parents in the loop would be more beneficial for the community. Please keep this in mind for future reference. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker. It's Deborah, yeah.
Deborah Padilla, followed by Samuel Bass, followed by Ron Kirkish.
Thank you.
Thank you. On April 21st, the Gilroy Unified School District Board of Education unanimously approved to renew the contract with the City of Gilroy for 2 school resource officers. Our top priority as a district is providing positive, safe school environments for students and staff. Therefore, this decision was predicated on collecting and reviewing survey and time accounting data regarding the SRO program. The survey was administered in English and Spanish to students, to families, and to parents. It was the agreement with the board, our board, that we would do a survey annually. We did this survey within 2 months because of the change of the date for the renewal. So the information that we have from that survey is that 61% of student respondents, 64% of parent respondents, and 73% of staff respondents stated that having a school resource officer in the schools made them feel safe. 85% of student respondents, 93% of parent respondents, and 90% of staff respondents stated that they are comfortable with having an SRO at school. And in 3 short months now, 57% of the student respondents are comfortable approaching an SRO on campus. As part of our comprehensive plan for safe schools, we also collect data on how our SRO time is being utilized. With 2 full months of data, we see that 96% of the SRO's time is spent in positive interactions with students and staff. We have identified additional strategies that are needed to provide safe and positive school climates, including the renewal of the contract with the city for SROs and the partnering with a licensed social worker. This team will be enhanced next year as the district is in the process of hiring 3 additional licensed social workers at the middle school level. They will work directly with the SROs when needed to address social and emotional crises that may occur with our students. The SRO contract is just one piece of a comprehensive, balanced approach to providing positive, safe school environments that includes implementation of PBIS, which is classroom management, restorative justice training and practices at all secondary schools, extensive counseling and mental health supports, social emotional learning curriculum that we have put in place this year, training for all staff on these strategies, and much more. The SRO program emphasizes prevention, intervention, education, and developing positive relationships. We will continue to collect data and monitor the activities of the officers working in our district. Our expectation is that the SROs will only intervene in serious incidents that involve a crime and/or violence against others on our campuses. The recommendation to renew this contract is fully supported by our secondary principals and assistant principals, some of whom are in this audience this evening. And on behalf of Dr.
I
Flores...
have to stop you.
Yep.
The time. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Next speaker.
Samuel Bass, followed by Ron Kirkish.
Can everyone hear me pretty good?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, cool. So good evening, everyone. I want to start off by thanking the mayor and the city council members for allowing me to speak on an issue that I care about so deeply. It's nice to be here with so many other caring community members. My name is Sam Bass, and I'm a youth organizer at Youth Alliance. The issue of SROs is very important to me, as I've lived in South County for 16 years now, and I grew up seeing the school-to-prison pipeline take place in our own schools. I'm here today to reiterate some points made in an email sent to you all earlier by my colleague Rene Casas. In the email sent earlier today, we attached a document titled City Council Alternatives to SROs-GUSD MOU on behalf of the Coalition of Concerned Parents, Students, Community Leaders, Educators, and Advocates. The Coalition finds it critical that you do not bring back SROs to GUSD campuses. After how much this community went through during the times of COVID, I understand that everyone wants community safety. However, I do not think that this simply means maintaining the presence of law enforcement. The youth who are considered at risk deserve safety too, since they are part of this community, and increasing the risk of them entering the system does anything but that. I know we've talked today about SROs diverting youth from the justice system, but both of the documents that we attached to our letter earlier have a lot of stats that say otherwise. And if we really care about our entire community, we should provide as much support as we can, as early as we can. This way, we will have a much more united community that prevents issues instead of being a community that reacts to issues by excluding our own members and putting them into the system. I also want to emphasize that we are not just trying to criticize the handling of community issues. The documents attached to our letter not only included thorough research on the harms of SROs to school climate, but also multiple evidence-based alternatives to having SROs. If you have any questions, Youth Alliance or any organizations that express their support in the document mentioned will gladly clear them up for you. Finally, I want to thank you all for the work that you have and continue to do for our GUSD students. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker. And the last speaker, yes?
Yes, Madam Mayor,
Okay.
it's Ron Kirkish.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, community. Why do we have SROs? Are they here to protect our kids? I mean, we had this last week, a few days ago, we had 10 people killed by an idiot. We had another Asian community killed by an idiot. We had 3 kids or 4 kids killed at the Garlic Festival by an idiot. What are the SROs for? Are they here to perform a pipeline to prison for our kids? No. They're here to protect our kids from idiots like those that perpetuated those crimes. Let's get down to the real basic level why we are having them here. Why are we putting fences around our schools? To keep idiots out, to protect our kids. But that's not necessarily enough. We need SROs. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, closing public comment and coming back to council in the order that's on the board. So Councilmember LaRomanos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, when we spoke about this a while back, I shared my own personal experiences of having worked with, I say work, let me rephrase that, having interacted with police officers when I was an elementary school student through the DARE program, and I spoke about my experiences getting to know Officer Scott, who would play basketball with us during recess. really some of my fondest memories of growing up in elementary school there. But I'd like to speak today about, some of the arguments that are being made against having SROs in our schools. And I think they all suffer from a fundamental flaw of being a false choice. I think there's a false choice that's being set up that you have to either be on one side of the SROs and the other side being for programs. And what we've heard from the school district today is that there are any number of other programs in addition to those offered through the SROs that are available to our students and to our youth. So I don't think we have to pick between one or the other. And I certainly hear the comments made by GUSD officials and leaders that this is what they want in their expertise and their experience day in and day out. They're on the ground. This is what they're asking for unanimously. And it sounds like the survey and the study was provided in English and Spanish. I mean, that's what we hear. So, well, that was the testimony. The testimony that was provided was that it was in English and in Spanish. And so, given the fact that we have that information, I think it really does weigh to the importance of recognizing that we need to serve our students in a variety of ways. And we talked about community. We hear that word all the time about why this is so important. And community really begins with understanding. And you don't build understanding by keeping people separated and saying, no, they're the others. We're not going to talk to them. They're dangerous, without knowing anything about them, without having that opportunity to get to know them. I mean, that's the exact opposite of what we're trying to do here, which is to build bridges of understanding and communication. And let me just finish on one quick point. I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an expert at this stuff. Look at the body language of the kids in the photos that we saw. Were they scared? I mean, in the earlier photo, they were having lunch. They're all, talking and laughing with the officer. They're here. They're having a good time. I mean, this is how we build the community here. It's that interaction, that understanding. We all have to be brave enough to reach out to people different than us. Both sides have to do that. Everybody has to do that. That's what we're trying to do. That's why I support SROs in the school.
Thank you. Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. And Chief, I'm going to have a question for you, but I don't expect you to answer it per se. But some comments were made, and thank you for those comments, and from everybody. And I would ask, because I kept hearing the word work together, work together. Well, here's an opportunity for you to work together with our police department. I worry, as a Latino who supports the Latino community, in addition to the entire community, I have children who went through the school system and worked directly with the SROs. And never my message to my kids was, stay away from them. They're bad people. Or they're going to arrest you unfairly, like what was said earlier. And that's very concerning was when people say that to me, and it's actually gets me kind of boiling here because it's so unfair for those accusations to be made. And I'll give an example. In some of the comments, again, I agree. We need more health-based, workers, whatever programs, whatever it is. I 100% agree with that. In addition to having the SROs, but to say those things and to push that message to our community, our youth, is very, very disturbing to me. With that being said, obviously, just what happened recently, a friend of mine in a local city, a large fight broke out on campus, okay, where there was guns, there was knives. I mean, you're talking about 30, 40 people. If it wasn't for the SROs being there, I think it could have escalated into something really, really bad, And I think I asked this question last time. Chief, if we did not have SROs on campus, and let's just say something happened on any of our campuses, what's typically the response time to get from wherever to the campus if we did not have SROs on campus?
Well, I'll preface by saying that anytime there's any threats of acts of violence on school grounds, we're going to drop whatever we're doing,
right,
unless we're dealing with a a life and death situation. But, you know, it doesn't, we could be tied up at the outlets on a major accident, and then you have a call for service at Christopher High School, and that will take us a little bit to get across town.
Right.
And again, these SROs are responsible for one high school each and the feeder schools. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be on that particular campus every day of the week, but they're going to be available. That's their primary area of responsibility. So anytime there's a report that is generated from that particular school, that SRO responsible for that school and the feeder schools will take that report. You know, and I have a collaborative mindset, and we've tried to take a collaborative approach at everything we do. And I hear everyone, I hear the community's concerns, and I have read some of those studies, you know, and again, Gilroy has its own set of needs. So, you know, if something that's happening in Baltimore doesn't necessarily mean that it's reflective of what we have here. But I hear it. And again, acts of violence are not going to stop. What is the answer to acts of violence?
Yeah.
I'd like to hear that.
Right. No, exactly. And thank you for that. And, you know, one of the comments, and this is to my school district friends here, if it is inaccurate that the survey was not in Spanish, I think that needs to be sent back, obviously, and changed. But again, for me, you know, you look at everything that we're talking about here today, and, you know, for me, public safety is very, very important. You know, many moons ago, I mean, 13, 12, when I was on the school board, at first I was kind of iffy about, you know, the discussion of SROs. But I did my homework, and I went out and met with them and seen what they did on a daily basis, you know, and that reassured me that they're doing a good job, you know. And I say this to everybody who has not been exposed or experienced talking or working with an SRO, you should. Not only for yourself, but for the people that you're working with and mentoring. I think it's important to get that positive message out there. So with all that said, I would like to make a motion for approval. Thank you.
Okay, we still have some speakers. Is there a second to that motion? So
I'll second.
Okay, fine. So we have a motion by Councilmember Tovar, seconded by Councilmember Marks, but we still have some discussion. Councilmember Armendariz?
Thank you. And I'd like to thank the young people who spoke tonight and remind us that they deserve that their voices be heard and that their needs be weighed with us with as much importance as the voices and the importance that is lent to the other voices at the table, including our educators. And remind all of us that we do have data and we have studies that are, this issue has been studied for generations, and we know that if we've learned anything, it's that having law enforcement, having more severe criminalization, giving people longer stretches of sentencing is neither a deterrent nor a solution, and has a worse impact on crime than anything else. Restorative justice practices, all the other alternatives that we have at the table, besides putting people in cages, right, are what works, are what makes us better as human beings, what makes our society, our schools, everything better, not locking people up. And when we have an increased police presence or military presence on our campuses, it does serve to increase the number of arrests and criminalization and create that pipeline to prisons. And so I'd like us, if we're going to spend this kind of money, that we spend it on what the data tells us is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hilton?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, you have my full confidence, and I know you're trying to do the right thing, and I believe in you, and I believe in the officers, and the MOU is different today than it was in years past. Before, it was just strict SRO, you know, would be in attendance, and we heard testimony at GUSD. I listened to, you know, the comments of board members and students give their experience of what they saw back in the day. I mean, we're an old city, right? We weren't just created. So I applaud you and the department, you know, and GUSD as well, for having those built-in expectations of the officers, like restorative justice training, positive behavior training, and bilingual. I appreciate that. I personally would also like to see the annual surveys collected by GUSD reflect the demographics of those surveyed, To me, that would help know whether the survey is actually statistically valid or not. Who are we really reaching? And I know that was shared by the board as well. And I understand that you're gonna, have to continue to get that process down. It's not easy, and you only had a couple months of data, so I completely get that. The data that was brought forward on what the types of incidents that SROs are going to, thank you for bringing that in. That is, I appreciate that. Those are the things that I need to be able to make a more informed decision of the correct response of whether this is what we should be doing for school safety. I personally too would rather have funds used for programs that we've heard earlier tonight. Several times we've heard about programs on prevention. And lastly, I'd just like to see our staff and GUSD staff really take time to work with those community-based organizations that still have the opposition out there. They still have provided opposition. There's a reason why they're coming together. And I think that 2 years in a row now, very verbal about it. And I'd like to see you all come to a compromise, and whether that means that we fund SROs and at the same exact time, we're funding some programs and services that come from these community-based organizations, I think really would bridge that gap rather than us talking on one or the other. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, so is this a roll call?
Roll call vote, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Armendariz.
No.
Councilmember Bracco.
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton.
No.
Councilmember Leroy Munoz.
Yes.
Councilmember Marks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar.
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley.
Yes. All right, that passes 5-2. Okay, item 10.3, introduction of comprehensive user fee study update. Harjot is going to be giving us this report.
Parjo, I have to say before you started, I almost wore the same tie tonight. So
Did you?
I had two, and I said, for some reason, I went with this one. Oh.
Parjo, I'll get you another tie.
Let's see. June 20th. Let's target that. All right. Good evening, Mayor, council members, teammates, and the community members. My name is Harjot Sung. I'm the city's finance director. The item before you is an update regarding the comprehensive user fee study. A little background on the project. The current fee schedule that the city has was last updated and adopted in 2018. It does not have any kind of annual inflationary adjustment, so therefore it has not been adjusted since 2014. The fee study was initiated in 2019, but was briefly paused in 2020 due to the onset of the pandemic. And as part of the current biennial budget process, we did recommend and include in our budget and the work plan to complete the study. So over the last 10 months or so, we have re-engaged with the consultant, kind of updated our analysis, based on our current budget. As you know, the 2019 study was based on a prior budget. We underwent a general fund, fiscal recovery plan, where the budget was adjusted, positions were adjusted. So we took all that into account to make sure we're basing all of our calculations on the most recent staffing levels as well as our budget. A little about the process and the methodology. The first step really is to create a cost allocation plan that appropriately allocates costs from the central service departments. Some examples of those are obviously the city council, city attorney's office, city administrator, finance. We provide services to other operating departments. So we capture our costs and then, indirect and pass that on to the operating departments as an indirect cost, if you will. The next step is to identify the direct overhead of operating departments. Those are things like supplies and services that are directly involved in our operations. And then we utilize both of those, indirect and direct overheads, to calculate the average hourly rates for a given position. And then the calculation component occurs, which is most of our fees are time-based. It's essentially the time it takes for a teammate that's involved in conducting that process or providing that service. It could be as little as one individual. It could be multiple individuals that are involved. In an example would be a business license review, right? So each department has an individual that's contributing to the review process. So again, most fees are time-based, unless they are capped by legislation. Of course, we can only charge legally what that legislation allows. So there are fees in that. Or the other element would be some fees follow the industry standard. An example for that would be our building permit fees, which uses valuation-based method, utilizing the International Code of Councils data set, which provides basically an average construction cost per square unit, and that's what gets applied. As far as the recreation fee goes, again, as you'll recall, a new approach was established as part of the General Fund Fiscal Recovery Plan, where the recreation fund receives a $1.5 million annual contribution from the general fund for programs serving the vulnerable population. So as part of the user fee update component, we have limited the scope for recreation fees to just facilities and park rentals, as any kind of programmatic items are going to be either accommodated within the $1.5 million or they must demonstrate 100% cost recovery for consideration and approval by the city administrator. Some things that you can expect in the user fee study they'll come out is, one of the big thing is, as I mentioned earlier, fees haven't been adjusted since 2014. However, the city's cost of providing the services has definitely gone up. That includes our personnel costs and pension-related costs. So you can certainly expect to see increases in almost every area of the service, if you will. And you can also expect to have, new fees be added. We directed departments to do another review, essentially review of services that we're not currently capturing or recouping costs. So there are some new fees that we're going to be adding, as well as removing some other fees that are no longer, applicable, or we no longer provide that service, if you will. The other expectations or other considerations that we're going to be bringing forward are going to be inflationary factor. As I mentioned earlier, 2014 did not include inflationary adjustments. So it's recommended we'll identify a CPI index that we will basically recommend to annually adjust either at a fiscal year or a calendar year. So you can certainly expect that. Last but not least would be the code cleanup. We have identified a few items within the Gilroy code, especially as it relates to definitions of costs of items that can be included or excluded, things like debt service or capital items. We're going to be recommending those be excluded for from the calculation component to the extent it's allowed by the standards and the principles. So those are some of the preview items that what you can expect in the upcoming the study. As far as our next steps goes, the report is undergoing a departmental review. So you can expect to have a report probably made available to the public, first week of June. And we are planning to introduce it to the council formally, targeting the June 20th meeting. In between that, we're having conversations with our community development department to, engage the developer community. So you can expect we'll be we're compiling an email distribution list, if you will. So we'll be sending the link to the study to the developer community that usually operates and seeks services from us, as well as possibly doing a virtual and a in-person town hall where we invite the development community and the public to come in and ask us questions on the study. So shortly after that, we will bring those comments back to you at the June 20th meeting, and then let the council weigh in, and it'll be followed by a formal adoption, which has to take place during a public hearing. So we'll conduct that process shortly thereafter. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Harjot. Okay, council, this is a receive report item, but of course we can ask questions. So please put your name up on the board if you have a question. Councilmember Hilton.
Thank you, Mayor. This is my first time going through this, so I need just a couple of clarifying questions. Is this where you were talking about reaching out to the development community? So is this impact fees?
These are not impact
Okay.
fees. Yeah, these are just services they would seek over the counter. So planning review, building review, engineering review type plan check fees.
Okay.
Things of that nature.
So these are not like in lieu fees as well?
So yeah, so we're not. Yeah, so this is strictly just services that the city staff provide,
Okay.
not related to impact.
And thank you for doing it virtual and in person. I think people now in today's world, they appreciate one or the other.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's a lot easier when you guys have been doing the virtual ones just to drop that link.
Yeah.
So anybody can watch it at any time. That's really, really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're working on coordinating all that. Yep, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Great job.
All right.
Great taste and tie as well.
10.4. Receive
Madam
an
Mayor, we should receive public comment.
Oh, sorry. Public comment. Do we have any cards?
I do not receive any.
Okay,
public
closing
comment,
public
please.
comment. Thank you. All right, 10.4. Receive an update on the refinancing pension obligations project and approval of issuance of the pension obligation bonds. I know. Tell them.
So the item before you again is the refinancing pension obligations project. The title does reflect the approval, but we have a slight different update to share with you tonight. Just again, a background is the city's unfunded accrued liability for its CalPERS system. Has grown exponentially over the years and is currently at $99 million. Council has taken actions in the past to address the issue, and that includes, establishing and funding the Section 115, as well as, more recently adopting the pension funding policy that outlines various elements of how to fund that Section 115. It also establishes the guidelines for us to consider when we issue the POBs. And also back in January, Council granted the initial authorization to proceed with the issuance and initiated the judicial validation process, if you will. An update on the project is the validation process has been complete, and the city did receive a favorable judgment, clearing our way to issue POBs, if you will. Some of the other challenges that we've been faced with, again, as I shared back in March with you, was the market volatility. We were hoping by the time May comes around and we're ready, the validation process completes, some of this would subdue, but we're not seeing that. In fact, it's gone the other way around. So some other items is CalPERS. We previewed that, they may underperform for the current fiscal year. And that scenario is starting to be more realistic. Just over about 2 weeks ago, we forecasted that they would probably be around 0% or a -2. Just in the matter of last week, in talking to our financial team and the folks at CalPERS, they're now forecasting anywhere between -4 to -5. Things could change from here until June, but time will tell. So one of the other items that kind of put the city in a unique position was knowing that CalPERS was going to underperform or likely going to underperform. The financing team went back and did a updated analysis on the POBs. Prior analysis have all been taken into account the fiscal year 21 returns of the 21.3%. So we expected our UAL to be around $77 million. So when we did that analysis and said what would happen if CalPERS experienced a -2, that our UL would shoot right back up to about $98 million. So on this slide, you basically see an analysis comparing both the prior as well as the updated analysis that we conducted. We were hoping to land anywhere between 4.8 interest rate on both items and the annual average savings because we would have been issuing a higher amount, our savings would have been greater. So in the staff report, we highlighted, there's about 2 mechanisms where you can initially go out and do a POB, either out in the public market. The public market is already seeing interest rates that are above 5%. The other alternative is you do a direct placement with a bank, of the POBs. So, the financing team went back and explored the private placement option with the objective of obtaining favorable terms, getting the interest rates that we're looking for, hoping that the banks don't require any collateral, a clean term sheet, if you will, without, a lot of strings attached. We were hoping to get a callable provision. So that process kind of concluded on Friday. So as a result, basically, there's not a lot of appetite right now due to the volatility that's out there. We only received one bank that was willing to take us up, but even that, they were not willing to take us up at the $98 million. So they limited their exposure to $50 million. And in addition to that, not as a collateral of an asset, but they did require a bond insurance to be purchased as well, which obviously adds to the cost of the bonds. In taking a look at, because they came in at a smaller amount that they were looking to get an exposure to, we did analyze what that smaller amount would yield, and unfortunately, it's not, we did explore it, but it's not recommended because we wouldn't see the savings that we would have seen had we gone out with the full amount, from the first year. The savings on a smaller amount don't appear until about 3, 4, 5 years out. So that's kind of where we are at. The POB option, we have done a lot of the legwork. So, like the legal validation process is complete, so we have that. And that does not expire, so the city, city holds that. The market is volatile. Again, at this time, it's not in our favor, so we're not recommending, obviously, to move forward because, one, we don't have the banks that are interested. And generally, not even just banks, even the institutional investors are, just due to the market volatility, are limiting their exposures to POB type of bonds at this moment. As far as next steps, again, we'll kind of wait out the volatility. We'll, kind of keep an eye on how CalPERS does and its impact to the city's UAL. The good news is, again, we have a adopted pension funding policy, which has elements to fund the Section 115, both of which are coming up, in the next several months. One of them is going to be the prepayment of the UL for fiscal year 23, and the other is going to be savings from the year-end general fund expenses. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Council, if no one has a burning question, I'd like to see if we have any public comment.
I received no speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so closing public comment. Does anyone on the council have anything to ask Carjo? I know I'm a little, are we tabling this, or do we need an actual motion to not do it?
I don't think we need a motion. It's we included a motion in case we received favorable, terms, and we were ready to move on it. But at this time, we're basically wait and watch. We have done, again,
right. So
we can enter the market at any time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we don't need to do anything.
Yeah, we
no action.
No motions necessary.
Okay. So if
that's
somebody wants to, I understand. If somebody wants to make a motion, please make it. We do not need a motion to simply move on and not do the refinance. Okay. So, hearing no motion, we move on to item 11, which is city administrators' reports.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 4 quick reports here. Over the previous few months, I had been asked questions about the city of Gilroy and the use of flock cameras. If you're not familiar with what a flock camera is, it's a strategically placed camera throughout the city that can read information such as vehicle types, make, model, color, time frame, and license plate details. They're much more advanced than your typical license plate readers. And a lot of attention has been drawn to these cameras due to their success in identifying criminal activity, especially in retail thefts, vehicle theft, items like that. So they are starting to become more prevalent in cities including Morgan Hill, Santa Clara, Los Gatos, Milpitas, to name a few. So the Gilroy Police Department is entering into a 30-day trial for use of a few of these cameras to see about their effectiveness in assisting our police department. A good example of where you might expect a camera like this to be is no secrets here. The outlets have been inundated with thefts of individuals driving down to Gilroy, taking things and getting right back on the highway. These cameras are exactly what that is. They're designed to do and handle things like that, and can identify vehicles of such that have been seen in other areas. And those networks communicate and are able to provide more information than you would get from an officer just investigating a theft out the outlet. So our police department is excited to try this new piece of equipment to have at their disposal, but we'll be doing it on a trial basis because sometimes we just don't know exactly how it will work for us. So we'll be reporting back to council their findings and their effectiveness, and looking to see how we go forward. But for those of those who are wondering what the Gilroy is doing with flock cameras, we are in a trial phase with them at this point. I'd be happy to answer your questions, and of course Chief Espinosa would be much more qualified than myself. Pedro, when does it start?
They just identified all the locations, so they were going to be placed on the calendar, so I'm thinking next 30, 45 days.
Okay, Councilmember Armendariz?
Yeah, are these static? Are they mobile? And are they placed only on city property? Or how's that working?
They could be placed on either a city pole or a Caltrans pole, and they are self-contained, solar powered. So yeah, they could be moved depending on where the need is at.
And is there signage accompanying them, letting people know that they're under surveillance?
Part of the deployment would be community engagement, informational type of, but as far as in the interest of not having them vandalized, we're not going to say this is a flock camera.
So there's no sign that says you are under surveillance?
No.
Okay.
Okay, no other questions? Go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to let the community know of two particular capital improvement projects that are occurring at the Civic Center. One is the long-anticipated City Hall generator project that will connect the generator from the police station over to City Hall, and that is currently in progress and will be done in the next few weeks. And the second project that you'll see that's more aesthetic is if you visit the Gilroy Library, they are currently putting an outdoor shade structure with lights and fans and some amenities that is a partnership between the city and the library. The city contributed to that project. Before COVID, it had been delayed and was commenced this week as well, and will make the outdoor space much more usable during the hot days of, well, maybe not all of summer, but at least some of them. And we'll be able to get the kids outside a little bit more instead of having them cooped up in the library. So it's going to be a neat project and will be a nice addition to the library. I want to give you a couple of updates on some programs that we learned of this week, and one is the Gilroy Small Business Relief Program. This is part of the CARES Act funding, and we're restarting the program. We've had a couple of iterations of this, and just a summary, the maximum grant award is $5,000 for businesses with 2 to 10 employees and $10,000 for businesses with 11 to 25 employees. Please check the city's website. There is an informational virtual meeting, and there's also ways to get in contact with the program in order to get application materials and get some assistance if you need some. And then lastly,
Jimmy had a question about the last one.
Sorry?
Did you want to go through? They've done, this is a program administered by the chamber?
This one is not. We have had the chamber do it in the past, yes.
Did we get a final report from the chamber about that money and how it was administered and who it was given to?
We have that. We could give that to council.
Could
sure.
we? Thank you.
Yeah.
Jimmy, is this something new that people that got it before will be able to get it, this one too?
I believe they are eligible, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think the federal government has allowed you to apply for multiple programs. But we can get you a definitive answer. Okay, and then lastly, we talk a lot about housing and housing grants. The Cal Home program. Recently, the county applied for $5 million in funding from the state Cal Home program, which will allow funding to be used for down payment assistance and can serve households up to 80% of the average median income. This funding must be spent within 36 months. The city of Gilroy will be applying for a portion of those funds. It's not competitive, but it is one where you want to get your project in and see if the county will fund it. It basically focuses on ADUs and other smaller housing options, and also helps with lending for ADUs and other types of programs. So we're gonna have reports like this more and more as you've seen, or as we've gotten more involved in regional work and making some connections with the county. That even these small $1 million program, $5 million is not going to do a lot, but Gilroy hasn't gotten much in the past, and so I think we're making up for a lot of lost time and being certainly considered due to our demographics, our economics in South County. And so I would be surprised if we don't at least get a piece of this money, and every little bit will help, and we'll continue to be aggressive in that area. I'd be happy to answer any questions. That concludes my report.
Okay, seeing none. Andy, City Attorney's report.
No report tonight.
Okay, and no closed session, so we are adjourned at 9:19 p.m.